Everybody.
Good morning.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. I will call to order the Business Management Committee meeting for Thursday, November 21st, 2024. First item on the agenda is approval of October 24th, 2024 Business Management Committee meeting minutes. Properly moved and seconded. Any corrections? Okay, call for the vote. Are you having difficulty because I'm not sitting next to you, Al? The resolution passes. The minutes are approved. All right, the next item on the agenda is a resolution authorizing renewal of MARTA's excess operating property and liability insurance coverage for calendar year 2025. Donna Jennings, Director of Risk Management, thank you for presenting to us.
Thank you. Good morning. Excuse me. Good morning, Chairman Durrett, Vice Chair Williamson, Ms. Dawkins, Mr. Greenwood, members of the committee. I'm here today to request approval to renew the authority's excess operating property and liability insurance programs for calendar year 2025. In my presentation, I will provide you with an overview of the insurance market conditions, the structure of the programs, and the cost of the policies. First, let's discuss the challenges in the excess liability insurance markets. Presently, there are only a few insurance companies that are willing to participate in lead layers that are closest to where the losses occur, primarily due to poor profitability. This is the main reason that our self-insured retention increased to $10 million in 2021 and remains at that level today. The primary factor driving the increasing cost of liability insurance for both MARTA and other insureds with large vehicle fleets and significant premises liability exposure is the dramatic increase in the cost of the automobile and excess liability claims over the last 10 years, which are far exceeding premium dollars collected. Rising jury verdicts propelled by social inflation and litigation funding, as well as the fact that we operate in what is considered to be, in 2024, the worst judicial environment in the country, are making it very difficult for insurance carriers to accurately predict the severity of losses and underwrite accordingly. As I mentioned previously, insurance carriers now participate at higher levels in the program, which insulates them from risk. Carriers have also reduced the capacity or limits they are willing to deploy on each client's behalf, which increases frictional costs because we must use more insurers to provide the same amount of coverage. For example, in 2018, 11 insurance companies provided the full $150 million in coverage, and today we have 21 insurance companies on our program providing the same amount of coverage because each insurer takes on a much smaller percentage of the total limits. And finally, reinsurance costs continue to rise. Reinsurance, or insurance for insurers, helps insurance companies manage risk and maintain financial stability. When reinsurance premiums increase, insurance companies pass some of that cost on to policyholders. So moving on to the structure of the liability program, the structure is outlined here and remains the same as 2024. Our self-insured retention is $10 million and the total limits of coverage are $150 million. The coverage tower is built in layers with insurers taking percentages of coverage within each layer. Now let's go over the cost of the liability coverage. The estimated not to exceed cost for the 2025 liability coverage is $9.63 million, a potential increase of 18%. As Marsh continues negotiations with the insurance markets, our goal is to drive down the cost as much as possible. At present, if we paid the projected not to exceed amount, the cost for the coverage would increase by $1.41 million. Please note that the not to exceed amounts are very conservative numbers, and it is my expectation that the final cost will be lower. So now moving on to the property insurance coverage. We continue to face challenges in the property insurance markets as well. Insured losses for 2025 are expected to top $125 billion. The average increase in commercial property insurance cost in 2024 is plus 10%. The frequency and severity of natural disasters like hurricanes, wildfires, and floods has increased. This leads to higher claims payouts for insurers, which they offset by increasing premiums. Inflation remains a key factor affecting both property valuations and replacement costs. Rail transit entities face stricter underwriting due to our unique operational risks, reflecting the broader market's focus on high-risk sectors. Despite the authority's favorable loss history, public transit systems are often grouped into broad rail risk categories, which complicates efforts to obtain sufficient limits and favorable terms. Now we'll take a look at the structure of the property program. Program is outlined here, and it remains the same as 2024. Our self-insured retention is $5 million, and the total limits of coverage are $350 million. The coverage tower is built in layers, with insurers taking percentages of coverage within each layer. And now we'll talk about the cost of the property program. The estimated not-to-exceed cost for the property coverage is $2.98 million, a potential increase of 20%. As Marsh continues negotiations with the insurance markets, our goal is to drive down the cost as much as possible. At present, if we paid the projected not-to-exceed amount, the cost for the coverage would increase by $504,000. Please note that the not-to-exceed numbers are very conservative estimates, and it is my expectation that the final cost will be lower. In conclusion, the total not-to-exceed cost for the excess operating liability and property insurance program for 2025 is $12.624 million. I respectfully request your approval of this resolution. Thank you. Return it back to you, Mr. Direct.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion and a second. We've got it moved and seconded. Questions? Al?
Could you go back one slide, please? I recognize everything you said is right on about the reinsurance costs. It's happened across the board. I just have a couple of thoughts is, how many claims do we have? Let's focus on the liability. How many claims have we had over $10 million? And that leads up to my second question. I know you, with the insurance brokers, go through options, but thinking out loud, I wonder how much money we save by going to a $12 or $15 million deductible. If it's $50,000 or $100, sometimes it doesn't pay off. If it's $500,000 or $800,000, that's a different consideration. So I know you've locked in on the $10 million. I'm just putting the mirror out. Would we be better served financially by risking that extra $2 to $5 million in reducing our premium?
For this renewal, we looked only at $10 million. We can certainly look at that going forward. I think that the incremental cost, as you indicated, I mean, it's a risk return analysis that we'll have to do. Going $2 million is not going to save us that much money. Going another 5 or another 10 will probably save us money, but that then becomes, we can look at that and determine whether we want to do that from the perspective of the board if we want to self-insure to that level. So we can certainly look at going higher, but it involves, additional risk. It may not save us much money, but we can look at it, certainly.
Well, I know many times you don't actually save a whole lot by increasing the
Correct.
deductible. Sometimes you save a lot. So I just
Yeah, I mean, we're at a pretty good level right now. I mean, we take on a lot of risk in our self-insured program. So, and in answer to your first question rather, about how many claims have we had that have exceeded the $10 million retention, that retention went into place in 2021, and we have not yet had a claim exceed the $10 million retention. We've had claims come in under that. Everything that we've settled so far or paid out has been under the $10 million retention at this point.
I know there's not a right or wrong answer to that question.
Right, sure.
Rod?
Yeah, my question has to do with slide number.
Tell me when to start.
Slide 9, I guess. the property insurance market challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So the insurance loss of 2024, you mentioned, is $125 billion. Is that for the insurance market for
As a whole.
rail and transit? Or is
That's
that
for
just
the market
all
as a
market?
whole, the property markets, yeah.
So that's for any property, housing, anything that's out there?
Yes,
that's
sir.
property
It covers the
related?
property market losses as a whole, which actually has an impact across the board because insurance spreads the loss. So that's why that's significant.
And being that we're in this rail transit space, when I look at the losses in that space, are they that significant to lump us into this larger market?
This is always the interesting question. When we go to our renewal meetings with our property markets, we work very hard to distinguish MARTA as, you know, the entity that we are. We're different from other transit agencies in a number of ways. We have a closed system. We're not in a catastrophe area. We don't have the flood risk that some people do. We don't have the wind, hurricane risk that some people do. And we work very hard on that to distinguish ourselves. And particularly with our loss record, we've never had a loss penetrate the property insurance retention in the 27 years I've been here. So we work very hard at that, and it will reflect ultimately in our actual premium. These not to exceed numbers are, again, conservative because of the way we have to prepare for the board meetings in advance of the renewal. So we work very hard at that, and I think we do a good job of making sure that that's taken into consideration. But there's always going to be a bit of a brushstroke across the whole market to reflect for that gigantic loss that everybody sustains because they have to, the insurance companies have to spread their risk and their loss as well as their costs. So we get lumped in a little bit with that. Thank you. But we don't always, you know, we work hard at getting that taken care of.
Yeah,
So,
sounds like it's difficult to separate this, what we do from this larger piece.
but we try to.
But you try to, okay.
Yes,
fine,
sir.
fine, thank you.
Okay, since I see no more questions, I'll call for the vote. The resolution passes. Thank you, Ms. Jennings.
Thank you.
All right, David Emery, you're up next. We have a resolution authorizing the award of a contract for the replacement of the existing public-facing MARTA website, RFP P50441. Mr. David Emery, Senior Director of Customer Technology. Take it away.
Thank you, and good morning. Chair Durrett, Vice Chair Williamson, Mr. Greenwood, Ms. Dawkins. I'm David Emery, Senior Director, Customer Technology, and I will be speaking to item 3 on your agenda. Resolution authorizing the award of a contract for the replacement of the existing public-facing MARTA website, RFP P50441. So this morning I will be covering the background, why we want to replace the website at this time, our proposed enhancements, what we'd like to see from the new website, the procurement timeline to date, our rationale for selecting the recommended vendor that we'll be presenting today, the financial considerations and budget for this project, and finally, the board resolution request. So a little bit of background. The website, itsmart.com, is of course a major tool for communicating with the public. It currently receives about 250,000 unique visitors and about 1 million page views every month. But despite its popularity, there are some limitations to the website in its current form. It's been nearly a decade since the site was last refreshed. The last redesign was in 2016, and even that was only the user interface. It didn't really touch any of the underlying content management systems. So those are in definite need of replacement. It's become difficult for departments to manage their content and update their respective pages on the site. Some of the more popular features, particularly the trip planner, lack some key functionality, and particularly a lot of our newer real-time data feeds are not getting into the website as effectively as I think they could be. Most visitors, about 72%, are using mobile devices, but the site as it exists today is really not optimized for today's devices that many users are using. And just in general, the website has not kept up with customer expectations around accessibility and ease of use. So what we're proposing is a complete rebuild of the website, top to bottom. So the content system, the user interface, really all components of the existing itsmart.com site Just want to review a few of the enhancements that we'll be getting out of this project. More dynamic rider information. That's really the key thing that people go to the page for. The most popular pages are, the bus stop lookup, the trip planner. So all of those resources will have more up-to-date information, so that what our riders see on the site matches the service that we're running at that moment, with the latest information about cancellations, alerts, reroutes, etc. There'll be enhanced pages for individual stops, routes that have all that information kind of embedded into it. There'll be an enhanced project tracking tool for our capital expansion program and state of the repair program, so that members of the public have easier access to that information. There will be native integrations with several other ongoing projects here at MARTA, the Enterprise CRM, that's our ongoing customer relationship management platform that we're implementing with Salesforce. AFC 2.0, so of course the replacement of the Breeze system, those will be important integrations into the new website, and that's part of the scope, is to have native integrations with those systems. It'll be a more modern and mobile-friendly interface. There'll be enhanced search engine optimization, advanced information security, and then in particular improved accessibility and really a focus on inclusive and user-centric design. Just to review the timeline that's gotten us to this point, we released this RFP in April of this year. We received 15 responsive proposals, so there was very strong vendor interest in this project. We ultimately shortlisted 5 proponents. The interviews were held in September, and after a lot of consideration, we have made a recommendation that we enter negotiations with a team led by Reflections to implement this project. And those negotiations have completed, and we're now coming to the board with the authorization request. So a little more about this team. The lead firm is called Reflections Data. They are based in New York City and have extensive experience with web design and development, and particularly extensive experience in the transit industry. They've done major projects for New York MTA. If you've used the new Omni website that New York has, that's done by this company. Also doing major projects in Washington, D.C. for WMATA, for the MBTA in Boston. They've done some overseas work with agencies in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and really we found that they're very experienced. They were very responsive to all of the elements of the technical scope, and it was a very extensive technical scope of work for this project. They had a strong understanding of our requirements, of our design approach. We did complete reference checks and had high ratings from some of these existing customers, and they have committed to the DB goal for this project, which was 12%. And that's primarily through one of their subcontractors, Saxon Sites, which specializes in user testing. They're also supported, I'll note, by Cambridge Systematics, which specializes in kind of transit data systems and some of the trip planning technology, and then Speedlane, which is a specialty software development firm. So the financial considerations. The contract we're proposing will be up to 6 years total. That's a 3-year base with up to 3 one-year options. The base term will cover those initial 3 years, and that really covers all of the work for the design and discovery and development of the site. And this is a custom development project, so there'll be an extensive initial discovery and design exercise, and then the actual development, the rollout, the development of those integrations I mentioned, then ongoing operations and maintenance for the remainder of that 3-year term. I will note that there's still some decisions we need to make about whether the hosting of the site is done by MARTA or done by the vendor. We left the scope kind of open to that. So that decision will be made during the design and discovery phase. There are also some functional options that were in the scope that we can exercise at our discretion. But this base term assumes that the vendor would be doing all of those, both the hosting and all of the options. And so that total price for that base term is, as you can see there, $5,972,000, or $5,972,500. Then there are 3 option years that are each $262,500. The total is $6,760,000. And this contract will be funded by local capital funds in the approved CIP, as well as operating funds from the ongoing, operating funds for the ongoing O&M. And with that, the Office of Customer Technology requests approval by the MARTA Business Management Committee of the resolution authorizing the GM CEO, or his delegate to enter into a contract for the replacement of the existing public-facing MARTA website, RFP P50441, with Reflections Data LLC in the amount of $6,760,000. And with that, I will hand it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Emery. Motion and a second. Properly moved and seconded.
I did not vote against, sorry. Mr. Palm probably did.
Someone will fix that. And is that the only comment you had?
No, mine's a quick comment. As we do all this, and I recognize the fact we certainly need to update the website, how does the CNSA app fall under this? Is that a part of this website redesign, or is that a separate?
So that's a separate project. CNSA is considered part of the mobile application. So we have an ongoing and parallel project for replacing the mobile app, and really replacing our whole mobile app ecosystem with a single unified app. That's our plan. So that is a little bit farther behind in the procurement process, but we are hoping to have that out on the street, that RFP for the replacement mobile app, really any day now. I think we're very close on that, and we'll be coming back to this committee with a recommended vendor sometime in early next year.
Okay, thank you.
So the mobile app, the CNSA is considered as part of that, but we do see those two as very kind of closely connected projects. We want to make sure that there's a consistent kind of user experience across mobile and web going forward.
Ms. Ide.
Yeah, thank you. This looks great. That was a little bit of my question on the one. It feels like we just redid the Breeze Mobile 2.0. How long ago was that we?
Breeze Mobile, yeah, that was the mobile app. It's been in the last 2 or 3 years. Okay. So about a year and a half ago now.
Okay.
We last redid.
That doesn't seem like a great lifespan for a mobile app, but
Yeah.
maybe it's going to be a little while.
Is that something else? You're conflating two things.
No, I know that this isn't for the mobile app, but I'm just saying, in general, I thought you just said we'll be redoing the mobile app soon.
Yes, so what you're describing is the payment application, which is separate. So right now we have the Breeze system, which is for fare collection, is separate from our mobile app for payment. And we have a overarching fare collection project that brings those together. What David was describing was our incident reporting system as well. So an overarching MARTA on the Go app will bring all those things, all those mobile applications into one. So yes.
Well, that's what I was trying to get at, is how is this all going to tie together? I understand part of the website redo is to make it, modernly mobile responsive, but we will still have native apps in iOS and Android also?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
that are all going to tie together on the back end so that it's the same information?
Yes. And that is what's going on the street in about a month or in the next couple of days. So when you see us in early 2025, you'll get more information around that and how
Okay.
that all is going to tie together. It'll make a little bit more sense to you when we bring all that back together to you.
Yeah, it seems a little piecemeal right now, but.
It is.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Blakely.
Thank you. 2 quick questions. One is in regards to the vendors. Are any of them local in regards to the subs, or are they all out of state?
So again, the prime firm is based in New York City. I will say, I know Cambridge Systematics has an office here in Atlanta, down by North Avenue Station. So they do have a local presence.
Okay.
And again, they'll be working on some of the data integrations and the trip planning technology. But I think a good portion of the firm is based out of Atlanta, but I think we're definitely looking to bring people down for work sessions as appropriate, and I'm not concerned about our ability to have communication all in the same time zone. So I think it should be pretty efficient from that standpoint.
Okay, gotcha. Just want to make sure that we're taking advantage of local talent. I understand, their ability to provide what we need, but just making sure that we're cognizant of local talent as well. And then the second question is in regards to the time frame for website refresh. Like almost 10 years is an extended amount of time in between refreshes. So are you guys giving consideration to more frequent updates in terms of the website?
I think we are. The way this contract is structured gives us some flexibility. It's a minimum of 3 years, up to 6 years, and I think we'll just see where we are as we get into that maintenance period and how the site holding up at that time. One thing I didn't mention is that the budget also includes an allowance for ongoing enhancements, so software development enhancements. That's something we don't really have with the current site. So if we want to make incremental enhancements during the lifespan of this website, we will have a built-in mechanism to do that. You know, if there's some design change or maybe there's a new data feed we want to integrate. So I think we'll have a little more flexibility to you know, make incremental changes going forward. But in general, I would say we probably are looking at more frequently than every 10 years going forward.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Mr. Pond.
This is an important contract, and I realize that it shouldn't be driven by price. I really have more of a question that came out of reviewing the contract analysis, where you ended up with 5 vendors that met all the requirements, and 2 of them, including the winner, are right together at 6.8 million, and you had another one at 500,000, another one at 1 million, 1.7 million. There was such a huge variance there. That in itself would say that a couple of them didn't know what they were doing. But I just wonder, was that maybe the scope was not clear or whatever? That was such a huge variance. It just shocked me almost.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big range, and I think we were surprised by that too. I do think that the technical abilities of the selected firm and the experience really did stand apart from the others. And when even with the price taken into consideration, that was a component of the final score. You know, they were still well in first place. But I mean, I think to your point, we do want to think about how we specify, you know, requirements going forward, just making sure that, you know, we're being clear about what we expect at a technical level. Because I mean, this is a very technically advanced project, and particularly with the integrations with the kind of parallel systems, the AFC one in particular. That's one where we saw some of the biggest variance in terms of price proposals. So the one that we're recommending, I think, gave us a very realistic estimate for that. I think some of the others were maybe very optimistically low. So I think with those integrations in particular, I think we could do better in terms of making sure that it's clear what exactly we're expecting when we write future RFPs.
Mr. Frierson.
Yeah, I was pleased to see that there's a commitment to the DBE goal of 20%, and there's a DBE participant in this. And I hope that we can do more than 12%. All right, because I think these types of RFPs can allow a great deal more participation by DBE companies because of what it is. I mean, this is really what people do quite a bit across the landscape. But my question has to do with, you know, you mentioned that you'll be able to refresh this software or this facing part of MARTA more frequently. All right, and I think that's good to know, because there's always opportunity to change these things seasonally if you want to. I mean, to address. I love to see what Google does when it changes its information just frequently toward different seasons, and I hope that we'll take advantage of that. That keeps it interesting. Yeah. All right, when you go back to the website and see those types of small changes without confusing it, but it's a good piece of it. So I just want to mention that. So thanks.
Okay, thank you. And actually, one piece of the scope I didn't mention in that enhancement slide, but I think is worth mentioning, is there's a part of it for what we're calling, I think, microsites. So these are, you know, one-time, more focused sort of sites within the site. So we say we want to do something for the World Cup that's kind of themed, that has more specialized content. This platform will provide us a mechanism to do that. Or if we want to do something for a particular project, like the new bus network redesign, you know, we'll have a kind of built-in ability to do that allows us to, you know, customize content to major projects or major special events. So that is something that we are excited about as part of the new site.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote on the resolution. Resolution passes. Thank you, Mr. Emery.
Thank you.
Ms. Walker, if you'll come forward to present a resolution authorizing the revision of MARTA's drug and alcohol policy. Phyllis Walker, Senior Manager of Occupational Medical Services. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman Durrett, Ms. Williamson, Mr. Greenwood, and members of the committee. This is a resolution authorizing the revisions of MARTA's drug and alcohol policy. The success of a drug and alcohol program begins with a strong, compliant foundation built upon its drug and alcohol policy. The purpose of MARTA's drug and alcohol policy is to create a safe, healthy, productive workplace by preventing and addressing substance abuse. Additionally, as a transit agency regulated by the Federal Transit Administration, MARTA is mandated to maintain a compliant policy. As regulatory and agency changes occur, MARTA is expected to continually update its policy accordingly. MARTA's drug and alcohol policy, dated August 2019 and approved by the board October 2019, was reviewed by the FTA with recommendations for updates to our policy as follows. The Department of Transportation received a final rule which amends the procedure for transportation workplace drug and alcohol testing programs to include oral fluid specimen testing. This policy is being revised to remove and/or adjust the references to urine drug test and replace with drug test, allowing for future opportunities to add oral fluid testing. I would note here that a decision is not being rendered at this time of this policy for MARTA's consideration or implementation of oral fluid testing because the Department of Health and Human Services has not certified at least 2 laboratories for oral fluid testing. The voluntary disclosure section of the policy updates the self-referral process for an employee who admits to having a drug or alcohol abuse problem. It describes the referral to an EAP, our Employee Assistance Program, its functions, role of the substance abuse counselor, which replaces substance abuse professionals, and specifies immediate removal from safety-sensitive functions until completion of a prescribed rehabilitation program. Language specific to drug testing utilizing gas chromatography, mass spectrometry, or GCMS has been deleted with the revised reference to 49 CFR Part 40 as amended. This change takes into consideration that testing laboratories may use various methodologies for specimen drug testing as technology changes. Employees are subject to drug and alcohol testing when MARTA has reasonable suspicion to believe the employee has used prohibited drugs and/or engaged in alcohol misuse. Historically, as a best practice, MARTA has utilized 2 trained supervisors or MARTA officials in making such determinations as outlined in our previous policies. The FTA requires 1 trained supervisor or company official, and their concern is a delay in using 2 trained staff. Although MARTA's staff has consistently been able to make such determinations and proceed for testing without delays, a revision is being made here in accordance with 49 CFR 655.43b, where 1 trained supervisor is sufficient for making reasonable suspicion determinations. The Department of Human Resources have revised and removed the pre-employment alcohol testing requirement traditionally reflected in post-offer hiring and 90-day return to work. The pre-employment alcohol testing is a planned test, and the donor knows exactly when they're tested. The FTA does not have a mandated regulatory requirement for this testing category. Prior to making this company change, the data from our annual Drug and Alcohol Management Information Systems reporting was reviewed and consistently reflects a pre-employment alcohol positive test rate of less than 0.2% per year. And that's based upon a review of the past 4 reporting years. An approximate cost savings of $42,000 per year over the 5-year contract period for testing will be realized. A negative dilute specimen is a urine specimen that has a greater concentration of water than that of normal urine specimen. A revision is being made to not require an additional retest, and therefore the first test will become the test of record. And our safety-sensitive positions have been updated in Section 13 of the revised policy. I respectfully request the board's approval of this resolution authorizing the revisions of MARTA's drug and alcohol policy. Thank you, and back to you, Chairman Durrett.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. I'll entertain a motion and a second for this resolution. Properly moved and seconded. Are there any questions? Ms. Blakely?
One quick question. On slide 4, where we are reducing the number of trained supervisors from 2 to 1, is this in alignment with the amount of staff that the agency has? Because just thinking about the number of staff that we have here, even 2 sounds, to me, it just sounds like it's not sufficient. And so now we're going from 2 down to 1. Is that in MARTA's best interest?
We attempted very hard to make the case with the FTA in regards to our timeliness in terms of response with 2 trained supervisors. We showed them the history of our policies dating way back where we've always had 2. Consistently, we are able to get the notifications and get the individual to the clinic on an extreme timely basis. The FTA is looking for a consistency of 1, which is what the regulation states, and even though we've made our case for 2, they did require the change. We will still be able to utilize a second set of eyes in regards to the evaluation. We have more than about 400 trained supervisors, so we do have plenty of trained staff available.
It's 2 per case, not per
Okay.
employee
Gotcha.
base.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Frierson?
Yeah, I'm just curious concerning the pre-testing of the pre-employment alcohol testing that is not required. So are you saying that the policy will change where you won't have to do any pre-testing before an offer is made for a drug test?
We will still continue to do drug testing, which is required by the FTA. When we went back and took a look over the data for our pre-employment, the number of positive tests for alcohol were extremely low. As I've indicated, somewhere around about less than that 0.2%.
Right.
What we find once again is when the individual comes into the authority from day 1, even in new employees orientation, reasonable suspicion is immediately subject to that also. So we have other avenues in terms of ongoing testing.
Okay, because I would have thought that the pre-testing should be low because that means that they are already anticipating a test before they even come to the enterprise, right?
That would be correct.
Right?
That would be correct.
So now we remove it, give them a chance to get hired, and then we test them once they're hired, and then we determine if there's a problem.
Well, the applicant will understand that they will have a physical and testing. So we do not go around specifically just saying we're removing the alcohol testing per se.
Okay, all right. All right, that's all I have.
Can I, Phyllis, can you just clarify for the room, in as much as we have these revisions, these are still minimum standards, right? So if MARTA's got best practices that we happen to use that exceed minimum standards, we're not required by law to reduce our best practices in every case. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. We would not lower our best practices.
Thank you.
All right, I'll call the question.
I have a question.
Oh, Ms. Scott?
Yes. Does this involve any medical CBD?
That falls up under our drug testing protocol by the Federal Transit Administration, and our medical review officer and our test labs are responsible for identifying that in any of the drug testing process.
So if a person is tested, are they required to notify you that they're using a medical CBD?
We do not recognize any medical marijuana, THC, in any capacity under the Federal Transit Guidelines by DOT. So if someone has any traces above the threshold for THC in general, it will be identified as a positive test. And having a medical card would not disqualify, there still would be a positive test that would be associated, even with the medical card. Department of Transportation still has marijuana as a scheduled drug. And in transit, it will still be a positive test.
So would the person have the opportunity to share with you the medical information and the requirement if required by a doctor?
The medical review officer will ask the individual the question as to why something in specific has shown up in the urine. The conversation occurs between the medical review officer and the employee. The employee also has an opportunity through our policy to provide a medical approval form in regards to any medication. So they'll have two opportunities to report anything in regards to prescribed medications in general.
Okay, now I'll call for the vote. Resolution passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sue Yap, you're coming forward to present a resolution authorizing the award of a contract for professional services for Data Governance Program, Letter of Agreement, LOA L50582.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Durrett, Vice Chair Williamson, Mr. Hurley, Ms. Dawkins, BMC members, MARTA execs, and staff. My name is Sue Yap. I'm the Director of Data Governance and Strategic Performance, and this is my first time presenting to the board. I'm here today seeking your approval and recommendation to the full board to approve resolution authorizing the award of a contract for professional consulting services for Data Governance Program, Letter of Agreement L50582. This professional service will help us address the MARTA 2020 audit recommendation to formulate an enterprise-wide data integration, management, and processing strategy. It will help us achieve the MARTA strategic plan objective of establishing MARTA as a data-driven organization, improve how we record and format our data in a way that helps us exchange information and knowledge more easily with other agencies. It ensures that we derive best value from our technology investments by helping us ensure that the way data is recorded and produced by these technologies continues to meet business requirements that may evolve over time. It also helps us continue to ensure that data that we receive from these technologies is complete, accurate, timely, and fit for our purpose. We will do this by developing definitive data requirements and standards, assigning clear stewardship responsibilities and roles, establishing automated and proactive data quality monitoring, and establishing policies to govern these instruments. Typically, there are 4 drivers that lead an organization to implement data governance. First, we want to ensure that we are resilient by ensuring that information doesn't just reside in certain individuals and then risk losing the information when staff leave the organization. Instead, having information about data that's available enables better collaboration between people. Secondly, we need enterprise analytics for faster and more actionable diagnostics. Data governance helps bring together information that currently lives siloed in different departments, even though in fact how departments and functions work together is critical for our success. For example, when a bus or train service is unable to run on time, multiple factors may be at play, including which exact equipment or part may be broken, the availability of that part in our inventory, labor and parts being budgeted appropriately, whether the bus or train operator is sufficiently trained to troubleshoot the issue quickly and return service, how experienced is the bus operator, and how frequently is this part associated with a safety incident. When data governance is successful and helps us put together the MARTA recommendation of improving how data is integrated or packed together from different parts of our authority, we will achieve enterprise-level analytics and can examine relationships between factors with a few clicks of the button. However, this is a long journey, and for us to get there, we require to start today. Third, we want to be proactive. For fare gates, for example, instead of waiting for customers or station agents to report faulty fare gates or having to monitor it manually, automated daily scans for compliance is possible with good data standards and will help us to be proactive and more quickly detect faults in our system. Finally, it is common for any organization to have multiple sources of similar information. Data governance minimizes confusion and helps the authority immediately know the differences between data sources. On that same token, we will be providing our customers with the best available information. Our staff will use the best available information in their work. Our effort to establish a data governance program is keeping in line with trends in the private sector and more recent trends in the public sector. Data governance is a starting point for any data strategy at both the federal and state level. This year, we see FTA, TRB, and EPTA each setting up data governance roles and committees. The professional services we are requesting encompasses a consultant team of 1 principal consultant and 2 data governance data management consultants to provide operational as well as strategic support for the design and quick operationalization of MARTA's enterprise data governance program. We are recommending global data strategy because it is a recognized industry leader and has knowledge of transit data and operations. The project team conducted an independent cost estimate looking at rates from 3 similar vendors and determined that this vendor was the lowest priced. The statement of work that is part of this letter of agreement provides eligibility requirements that specifies experience requirements relevant to delivering this work. In line with that, we requested and compared the resumes of consultants from the 3 vendors and determined that this vendor was most experienced in the scope of work with clearest evidence demonstrating delivery of similar work, not just at the corporate level, but the individuals who will be assigned to the project. Internal audit has found the price of this procurement to be fair, reasonable, and supported with sufficient documentation. The contract is for a 1-year term with a maximum amount of $550,000, and it will be funded by local operating funds. No DBE assignment is in place due to it being a professional service. I respectfully request approval for this resolution. Thank you for your time, and I return it to you, Mr. Durrett.
Thank you, Ms. Yap. I'll entertain a motion in a second. Okay. Any questions? Then I'll call for the vote. The resolution passes.
Thank you.
You did well.
Thank you.
Congratulations. All right, the next item on the agenda is a resolution authorizing certain part-time credited service under the MARTA ATU Local 732 Employees Retirement Plan. LaShonda Dawkins.
Good morning, Chairman Durrett, Vice Chair Williamson, members of the Business Management Committee, and Mr. Greenwood. I'm here today in my capacity as a trustee to present for committee consideration a resolution to allow for certain part-time credited service under the MARTA ATU Local 732 Employees Retirement Plan. The MARTA ATU Retirement Plan became effective June 22nd, 1950, and has been amended and restated several times and currently consists of the restated plan effective January 1st, 2019. Our agenda consists of a discussion on the pension amendment recommendation, the key factors that were considered, and the Business Management Committee action. MARTA and the ATU Local 732 desire to grant credited service to eligible employees for their previous part-time service. The Plan Committee is trying to use the pension to encourage long-serving, value-added employees to extend their service with MARTA beyond their eligible retirement date. This proposed amendment targets those employees who worked initially as part-time workers, and their part-time service is currently not included in their retirement calculation. The committee would like to recommend amending the plan document to allow an eligible employee to work an additional 12 months of full-time service after they reach a minimum age of 52 and 20 years of service. The eligible employee would have for use of up to 24 months of part-time service in the calculation of their retirement benefit, with 2 months of part-time service being equivalent to 1 month of full-time service. In summary, this would allow for a maximum of 12 months of additional full-time service in the benefit calculation at no cost to the pension participant, to be effective January 2025. The MARTA ATU Local 732 Employees Pension Committee wants to share some key factors that were considered during the deliberations. First, the funded position of the plan as of January 1st, 2024 was 103.9%, with a rate of return through September 30th, 2024 of 12.9%. The target rate for our plan is 7%. Our plan is one of the best funded plans in the state and beyond. As of September 30th, 2024, we had $714.5 million in assets. We received actuary guidance that the cost of the plan would be minimal, while the change rewards our longest serving, most experienced, and reliable employees, while MARTA receives the extended services of those experienced personnel. I respectfully request that the Business Management Committee approve the resolution authorizing certain part-time service under the MARTA ATU Local 732 Employees Retirement Plan for consideration at the December 5th Board of Directors meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Properly moved and seconded. Questions? Mr. Pond.
Just a quick comment. I think this is an outstanding ad, and we need to reward the people who work long-term for us and do more for them. So,
Thank you, Mr. Pond.
Okay, I'll call for the vote. The resolution passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other matters to come before this committee are for information only. The FY25 October consolidated financial highlights and financial KPIs. That is all for this committee, so we will call this committee meeting to a close, and planning is up next.
I would like to call the Planning and Capital Programs Committee meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the October 24th, 2024 meeting. Can I get a motion and a second, please? It has been properly moved and seconded. Are there any questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'd like to call the vote. Did Jennifer leave? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda, we will have Ms. Robin Boyd up to discuss the resolution authorizing the disposal of a permanent easement and temporary construction easement to the city of Brookhaven for intersection improvements at 3056, 3062 Caldwell Road at the intersection of Reading Road, MARTA parcel C3232H in DeKalb County from Brookhaven, Georgia. Robin?
Good morning, Chair Blakely, GM Greenwood, Chief Rocha, and members of the committee. If you could go to the next slide, please. This was a request from the city of Brookhaven. They're doing sidewalk improvements for ADA upgrades, and they have requested an easement at Caldwell Road at Reading Road. And this is one MARTA parcel, but we purchased it as it's two tax parcels. It was acquired as two parcels. They require 305.73 square feet. It would be a permanent easement, but non-exclusive. The value is $16,900. And these were acquired back in 1983 and 1984. We used local funds, so there's no FTA interest. And the next slide. Basically, this is along the Gold Line. It's about 1.6 miles north of the Brookhaven station. And if you could go to the next slide. And this is just a close-up. It was land that we had purchased to do some relocating of sewer when we built the line, relocating sewer and drainage for the city. And the next slide, please. So I am requesting a resolution authorizing the disposal of a permanent easement and temporary construction easement to the city of Brookhaven for intersection improvements at 3056, 3062 Caldwell Road at the intersection of Reading Road, MARTA parcel C3232H, DeKalb County, Brookhaven, Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Can I get a motion and a second? It has been properly moved and seconded. Are there any questions or discussion? Seeing none, could we please vote? Motion passes. Thank you, Robin. Next on the agenda, we have a resolution authorizing the award of a contract for geotechnical engineering on-call services, AE 50471, Larry Prescott, AGM of Infrastructure. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Blakely, Mr. Greenwood, Ms. Rocha, Chair Committee. This is a resolution authorizing the award of contract for the procurement of geotechnical engineering consultant services, AE 50471. Next slide, please. This is basically an ongoing on-call program. We're extending it again for subsurface testing, site mapping, pre-construction, post-construction structural condition surveys, blasting vibration monitoring, and slope stability assessments. This is for both pre and during construction contracts that are ongoing to supplement what the contractors are doing out there for our own QA/QC program. Back in January was before this committee requesting the solicitation for these services. In June, the Source Evaluation Committee received 11 geotechnical firm proposals. The SEC met and scored and shortlisted 4 firms. In August, there were interviews that were conducted, and we selected the most qualified proponent. So next slide, please. So the SEC would like to recommend the approval resolution authorizing the GM to delegate or to enter in a contract with ECS for the Geotechnical Consultant Services. ECS is the prime, and the 2 subs that they have are DBEs, the EGSI and Ranger Consulting. The term of this contract is 5 years, 3 base, and 2 one-year options. Estimated at $300,000 a year for a total of $1.5 million. This program will be supported through the capital program budgets as they come up, and the Office of Diversity and Inclusion has included a 30% disadvantaged business enterprise percentage on that. Last time it was 26%, so it has increased. So next slide. With that, I'd like to request the approval of the resolution authorizing the award of a contract for procurement of geotechnical engineering services, AE 50471.
Thank you, Larry. Can I get a motion and a second, please? It has been properly moved and seconded. Are there any questions? Mr. Frierson.
Yeah, for this service, is this, for understanding, this is billed as they use the service, as they go to the site? Or is this just or will they always be on all the sites and they're just paid just to be on the sites to perform all these services?
It's an on-call as we need to help support our construction services, or prior to going out, like the parking lot program, we sent them out to do geotech prior to, so we can scope appropriately in areas of where it was just easy paving, or if we had to do any remediation. So rather than doing it with the contractor during construction, having a change order, we do it ahead of time, and then we do a QA/QC on the contractor when they are in construction.
Okay, great. Thank you. I missed the on-call piece of it. All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Seeing no additional questions, could we please vote? Motion passes. Thank you, Larry. Next up, we have a resolution authorizing the award of a contract for, nope, that's the one we just did. Contract for materials testing on-call services, AE 50472.
Thank you. Again, similar in situation of the resolution authorizing award for consultant services for material testing consultant services, AE 50472. Next slide, please. Parallel to the geotech, this is material testing. So field and laboratory testing of construction materials during construction, on-site monitoring for construction services, again, QA process procedure, all the non-destructive testing after the fact, forensic testing as well. Similarly, I came before this board back in January for the solicitation of this one. July, we had 6 material testing firms give qualified proposals. And then in August, we selected the one most qualified proponent for this. Next slide, please. So the SEC would like to recommend approval of the resolution authorizing the GM to enter a contract for procurement of material testing services with Terracon. They have subs that are DBE, the CERM and EGSI again, and then also had subs with the MME and the ATS to support them. This is also a 5-year program, 3 base, 2 one-year options, also $300,000 a year with a 1.5 total contract amount. Also supported by the fiscal program throughout the year as needed as an on-call service. And the Office of Diversity and Inclusion included a 25% DBE goal for here, and this is the same as it was last time. So next slide. I'd like to request approval of the resolution authorizing the contract award of procurement material testing consultant services for AE 50472.
Thank you, Larry. It has been properly moved. Can I get a second? It has been seconded. Are there any questions for Larry? Seeing none, I'd like to call the vote. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up on the agenda is a resolution authorizing award of a contract for communication space train control, CBTC, system. RFP P50319, Mr. Daniel Hex. Did I pronounce your last name right?
Hecht, yes. Good morning, Chair Blakely, Mr. Greenwood, Ms. Rocha, members of the Planning and Capital Programs Committee. My name is Daniel Hecht, the Deputy Chief Mechanical Officer, and this is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract for communication-based train control, or a CBTC system, RFP P50139. Next slide, please. Before we discuss the CBTC contract, I'd like to give a brief background on the train control system MARTA Heavy Rail utilizes. MARTA Heavy Rail uses automatic train control, or ATC technology, as the basis for our signaling system. We use technology from two main vendors, Knorr, formerly Alstom, and Union Switch and Signal, or US&S Technology. MARTA operates under grade of automation level 2. This means MARTA utilizes rail operators in the cab of our trains, but the vehicles themselves can operate automatically, departing from stations automatically, changing their speed based on the section of track they are in, and braking automatically upon arrival into stations. For information, GOA 4 is fully autonomous train operation. That's what you'd see at the plane train at the airport, for example. The technology is proven but antiquated and is based on track circuit technology with fixed block signaling system. I will show a picture on the next slide demonstrating how this works. The current train control system is heavily dependent on hardware, field equipment, and maintenance and replacement of this equipment. On the right is a photo of one of our 40-plus train control rooms. You can see a bank of electromechanical relays which form the backbone logic of the track circuit technology. Some board members may recall the train control and SCADA upgrade project. We started in 2010. This addressed some of the control and communication equipment with our ATC system, but did not address the bulk of the hardware and vital circuitry on the right-of-way and in our train control rooms. Next slide. MARTA requires extensive upgrades and modernization of the train control system hardware, software, control, and safety systems of the legacy ATC system. In lieu of upgrading the legacy ATC system, MARTA decided to pursue CBTC signaling system replacement program. The drawing on the bottom shows the fundamental difference between a fixed block signaling system on the bottom, which is what we currently use, and a moving block system, which is the backbone of a CBTC type system. You can see that the trains are continuously communicating with each other and with the right-of-way in a moving block system, which allows for shorter headways while still maintaining the braking curve necessary for safe operation. On the right, on the top there, that's a photo of one of our HMIs in the train control room, and you could actually see, it's kind of small, but you can see the fixed block signaling system that we have. In that picture, the train is moving to the left, and you can see the clear blocks to the left in green and the restricted blocks behind the train in red on the right. Signaling is one of the 5 critical elements for safe and reliable rail operations, the others being the rail cars, the trackway and structures, the power distribution, and the stations. Next slide, please. Here's a quick overview of the development of the CBTC project. The initial program began in mid-2022 and went through spring of 2023. MARTA requested to solicit proposals for the CBTC system at the March 30th, 2023 Planning and Capital Programs Committee and was approved at the April 13th, 2023 Board of Directors meeting. The development of the RFP ran from May through September of 2023. This phase was technically complicated and involved significant input from our operations, capital programs, technical experts, subject matter experts, safety personnel, and procurement staff. Notice of the request for proposals was advertised on September 5th, 2023 with a due date of January 8th, 2024. A technical evaluation committee was convened to review the technical proposals and present to the source evaluation committee. Of note, the technical evaluation committee consisted of MARTA staff as well as subject matter experts in communication-based train control systems, since this is relatively new territory to MARTA and is a unique technological specialization within North America. The source evaluation committee reviewed and evaluated the proposals and selected Stadler US Incorporated. Next slide, please. So about Stadler's CBTC solution. This is a fully integrated CBTC train control and signaling system using Stadler's Nova Pro CBTC technology. The solution comes GOA 2, Grade of Automation Level 2 ready to allow for seamless transition from our current operation. And the Stadler solution is upgradable to GOA 3 or GOA 4 at a future date. This solution includes SCADA integration, which is the supervisory control and data acquisition system. The SCADA system ties our fire alarms, tunnel ventilation equipment, wayside power distribution, certain elements of station management, and other critical elements into the rail control center, and allows for holistic control of all elements of MARTA's heavy rail system and subsystems from our integrated operations center in Chamblee. The solution includes onboard broken rail detection system. The solution allows for seamless integration with the new Stadler CQ400 fleet. An example of this is shown at the photo up right, which is an electronics cabinet in the new rail cars, not complete, of course. The CBTC equipment will be housed in the CQ400 and tied directly into rail car control systems, such as braking and propulsion. Stadler has committed to a strong local support presence in Atlanta during the project rollout and implementation, including the maintenance periods. This CBTC solution, as discussed earlier, will allow for reduced field equipment and hardware across MARTA's rail network. Ultimately, this allows for more efficient train operation, allowing for refined acceleration and reduced braking curves, which increases passenger comfort, while simultaneously allowing reduced headways. A further benefit is reduced wayside equipment, reducing maintenance periods, and impacts to rail schedules due to wayside work, which also increases worker safety. The solution allows for modernized work allocation of wayside activities, and MARTA can be much more flexible and creative with how we operate trains under special circumstances, such as during track work or large events downtown. Next slide, please. Now, I won't get too technical here, but I thought it important to quickly discuss the design principles with CBTC. The signaling system operates under CBTC principles with no separate interlocking equipment. Of note, all of our railway locations will be covered by CBTC, including all 3 of our rail yards. The MARTA CQ400 fleet and the high rail vehicles we have will come equipped with CBTC technology. This is not going to be implemented on the legacy fleet. This involves a new communication backbone with Wi-Fi infrastructure using known and common networking standards and protocols. The CBTC logic is fully computer-based without relay logic. SCADA, as I spoke to earlier, uses a standard protocol for communication between field units and centralized control. Where practical, this will use commercial off-the-shelf or COTS products to facilitate maintenance and decreased cost. And the RFP was written to minimize proprietary hardware and allow flexibility and scalability for long-term maintenance and future expansion. Also of note, cybersecurity is integral to the design and operation of CBTC. This includes comprehensive and safe testing and migration plan, and this will be safety and security certified. Next slide, please. Contract overview. This is a firm fixed price contract with a performance period of 8 years. Funding sources are local capital, with federal opportunities being explored. The base term is 8 years with 2 5-year options. The base term of 8 years is $503,035,380. Option year 1 through 5, which would commence at the close of the base term of 8 years. This is for operational and maintenance support services. It's $12,933,953. Option 2, which would commence years 6 through 10 after the close of the base term, is $8,626,010. The price has been determined fair and reasonable given the scale, substance, and timeline of this major project. The DBE goal is set at 18%. And Stadler is making good faith efforts towards this goal. Next slide, please. So here's a breakdown of the major cost and financial considerations with the project by scope area. The top 2 lines are the blue and green line and red and gold line installation. This is the field wayside installation of hardware, and that's about half the total project cost at about $150 million, or $250 million, excuse me. The train control and SCADA system is $26 million. The vehicle installation is $6 million. General requirements, project management office, system assurance, engineering management, $102 million. Reliability, availability, maintainability, and safety, that's RAMS. The system safety and security and quality management support is $41 million. Special tools, test equipment, testing and training is $50 million. Documentation, software licensing, a little over $11 million. State of good repair allowance, standby costs, public engagement, and other costs are $11 million, totaling the base term of $503,035,380 I spoke to earlier. And below are the 2 operations and maintenance support options, years 1 through 5 and 6 through 10 I spoke to on the prior slide. Next slide, please. Now I'll discuss a bit more about MARTA's internal financing and budget strategy for this project. MARTA is exploring creative financing via internal mechanisms through our capital budget process. As discussed before, we are also seeking federal grant opportunities as they are available. This project is included in the current 10-year capital state of good repair budget. And the process for our capital improvement program budget is we anticipate cash flows through our 10-year budgeting model. We develop a timeline on needed cash flows and evaluate the funding availability. We apply any debt requirements needed to finance the capital plan. Our goal is, of course, presenting a balanced budget plan, and then we reallocate resources based on project prioritization. We are also looking at possible bridge financing via a TIFIA loan. Next slide, please. The Department of Capital Programs and the Department of Mechanical Operations respectfully request approval of a resolution authorizing the General Manager or CEO or his delegate to enter into a contract for communication-based train control CBTC system, RFP P50319, with Stadler U.S. Incorporated in the amount of $524,595,343. Thank you, and I will take any questions.
Thank you, Daniel. The resolution has been moved and properly seconded. Are there any questions or discussion? Ms. Jones.
Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Hecht. Will you explain the length of the contract options, 5 years for each of those options? What is the purpose of those options being so long?
Sure, yeah, that is ongoing operations and maintenance support. So when we think about communication-based train control, it's heavily software reliant, so it will require routine upgrades, also changes to our operating environment, replacement of some software and hardware equipment associated with the equipment aging out. So those option years are to continue to have on-site Stadler support to help roll out software upgrades, modernization, cybersecurity enhancements, and other activities throughout those periods.
So is that service included as part of the base 8 years?
It is, absolutely, yes. The base 8 years will include all of that as well, yes.
Okay, and then in the document it stated that Stadler committed to 10% as a good faith effort for its DBE goals. Is there any indication as to why they can't reach the 18%? What is the barrier?
So I can say that Stadler and the information that they have provided to us, they have actually sent out information to hundreds of DBE companies trying to seek proposals to assist with the DBE goal on this. And they have gotten some responses, so that's why they're at 10% now. They are still working to get at the remaining 8% that they need. Some of that will happen as the scope is further developed and as they dig deeper into the scope and know exactly what industries they'll need from the DBE firms. They have actually contacted the Office of Diversity and Inclusion to ask for some help in that area, particularly to have like a outreach event where there'll be networking or type of an industry day type event once we are really sure on the particular industries that they will need. So they're continuing to work on increasing that goal from 10%.
Thank you. And Mr. Hecht, I have one more question. You mentioned that the system wouldn't be working in conjunction with the legacy trains. So how will this operate as the new trains are coming on and we're phasing out the old trains?
That's a great question. So the Stadler trains, the CQ400s, are coming equipped with technology that allows it to work with our legacy ATC system. That will be how we operate the train coming in 2025 and the first set of vehicles. The installation of the CBTC system will commence. It will be an overlay over the existing system, so we will operate on the legacy system until the new system is tested, verified, certified, safe to operate, and then we will roll out the new system when the legacy fleet is no longer in operation.
Bond?
Two or three things, Daniel. First of all, you talked about the system in 2010. Could you just briefly and concisely, in layman's terms, explain what this contract is providing as an upgrade versus that existing prior contract?
Absolutely. So the 2010 contract with Alstom was called the Train Control and SCADA Upgrade Project. And what that did is move our rail control from the Avondale Rail Control to the Chambly Integrated Operations Control Center. It included all new software system, new train control for the control systems, software associated with how we operate from the rail control center. It did not address the hardware in the field. It did address some of the communications between the train control rooms in the field and the rail control center at Chambly. So really that was about the connection between equipment out on the wayside and what controllers see and how we operate the railroad. This addresses the equipment out in the wayside.
Okay. And this is the backbone of the operation of the train system, very complex project. I recall several years ago, the prior contract, there were some issues getting the contractor to wrap this up in the latter parts of the contract. So nothing to be said about going forward, but I know there was some issues about staffing and getting the work done. I assume you guys have addressed that the best you can in this contract.
Absolutely. We've taken that into account, and we've included provisions in the RFP language that protect us from a similar outcome.
Mr. Frierson?
Yeah, just a couple of questions. You mentioned that with the new system, this onboard broken rail detection system as part of this. I remember a few years ago that we purchased some software to do that in the field. So are these things going to still go on in the field with the new trains coming into play? I mean, are we going to be still doing the field work as well as what this train is going to do to let us know if there's a problem?
Yeah, again, during the transition period, the legacy system, the track circuits that currently do broken rail detection for us, they will be functional as we migrate to the onboard broken rail detection. That's a lot of agencies are moving to onboard or on-vehicle broken rail detection system. In simple terms, our rail is a loop, and we send a pulse through it, and that determines whether or not a train is present. If a rail breaks in two, that signal is disrupted, and we'll get an indication that there's a problem, and that is how we identify broken rails often. With the new system, it's on board, so it will be continuously scanning the rail, not just for broken rails, but for other defects as well.
That's what I was thinking also. Okay. And my next question has to do with the software licensing on this. It's $11 million. I am assuming that that's ongoing as long as we have the trains that we're using, or is that something that at some point may have to be reconsidered as technology changes?
I'll have to find what the ongoing software costs are. A lot of the licensing is going to be the integration with some of the other field units that we have associated with the tying in of existing systems, because this isn't a wholesale replacement of everything like tunnel ventilation and all this. So a lot of those software costs will be the integration development associated with this. But as far as licensing cost, I can get an estimate of what the ongoing licensing cost will be.
Just want to understand that, because I think that's a fixed cost that we're probably going to concur as long as we have a system. And then the control center that we're talking about. I know you did a lot of work, like you said, in 2010 in that space. Is all that going to change too with this new software, hardware coming into play?
Yeah, we will have new hardware associated with CBTC in the control center, but the building itself will not move. Rail control will not move. I believe you've toured that facility. Yes. This will include some new hardware like the overhead display and obviously all the software that the computers use, but we will modernize all of the computer hardware, but otherwise the layout will not change.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Ms. Scott?
Yes. Part of the question I had, I think, was answered, and that is that our partnership with Stadler would assure smooth transition with the trains that we're expecting from them, that they would be working at this time on coordinating the communication with what they're crafting for us now, along with the trains that we're expecting, correct?
That's correct, yes.
we visited Statler, and I was very impressed with their relationship with the high schools and the colleges there, with the students in internship, work procedure, and various other avenues at their location. Since we're expecting them to be forefront here in Atlanta, can we encourage them to work here with our schools, our colleges, to make sure that if they're having issues with fulfilling their DBE goals, we have a huge number of universities here that we could work with and encourage them to have the same process here in Atlanta that they implemented there in Utah.
Absolutely,
Can
yes.
we request that?
Yes, we will request that from Statler.
Let me just jump in. That relationship has already been initiated, so Stadler and MARTA are working on that very thing.
Great, exciting. I talked to Melissa about it when we came back, and I think that's an extremely great idea. I was very impressed with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. And I have one final question in regards to the small business participation. So a $525 million contract, and they are currently at 10%. What barriers exist in getting to that 18%, one? And two, historically, has Stadler had an issue meeting their small business requirement goals?
The barriers in getting to the 18% really are kind of, as I mentioned earlier, the digging deep into the industry. They're having some barriers being in Utah. Obviously, to count towards our DBE goal, it has to be a Georgia certified DBE firm. So we're going to work with them in helping them get past that particular barrier. In regards to meeting their past DBE goals, we don't have that information with what they would have from other agencies that they might have contracted with. As far as Statler with MARTA, their only other contract, of course, is the rail car contract,
Right.
and that is a transit vehicle manufacturer contract. So it would not have a goal established by MARTA. It's a goal established by the FTA, and the FTA has indicated that that they are satisfied with their meeting that particular goal.
Okay. Okay.
May I add?
Yes.
Thank you. In regards to your comment, Mr. Greenwood, I think that because of the fact the various jurisdictions that we have all have wonderful workforce development at colleges and universities in each of the jurisdictions, I think it would be really important if we reached out to our jurisdictional partners to make sure that they have recommendations as well.
Agreed, Director Scott. That is, we're working with each of our jurisdictions, so we'll make sure there's representation throughout our service area, and we'll have more to say on that when it's developed. But that's definitely the direction we're heading in.
No additional questions or discussion? Like to call the vote? Resolution passes. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
Are there any other matters to come before this committee? Seeing none, committee meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
The Operations and Safety Committee meeting. First item on the agenda is approval of the October 24th minutes. Can I have a motion on the second, please? Okay. Are there any questions? If not, can we please vote? Okay. The motion passes. Next item on the agenda is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract for mobility vehicles using the state of Georgia contract, and that will be led by Eric Johnson, the Acting Director of Bus Maintenance. Eric?
Good morning, Chairman Pond, Mr. Greenwood, Mr. McKinney. I'd like to direct your attention to a resolution to authorize the award of a contract for mobility vehicles RFPP P50615 utilizing the state of Georgia contract. Somewhat of an overview, mobility is month.
Eric, excuse me a minute. Kind of hard to hear. Can you
I'm sorry.
Get closer to the speaker or get
Too many diesel fumes.
problem is you
Mobility's monthly ridership has increased roughly 38% since January of 2023. October 2024 closed with a record monthly high trip count of 63,197 trips in 1 month. Last year, 2023, we procured 15 minivans that were lowered floor ramp equipped vans to augment the fleet, and that provided some relief, but we're now asking for an additional 36 vehicles to deal with the increased ridership. The first vehicle I'd like to discuss is a Ram ProMaster 3500 high roof chassis. These vehicles have lowered floors, so as you can see from the picture at the top right, they're equipped with ramps as opposed to lifts. We're anticipating that this will be favorable to our mobility passengers. All of the MARTA equipment will be installed. All the ADA equipment is compliant. And this van contains 8 ambulatory seats and 2 wheelchair positions. The vehicles are modified by Braun Corporation, which is one of the largest converters of this type of vehicle in the country. The second vehicle is a Chrysler Voyager minivan, again with a lowered floor, done by Braun Corporation as well. This one also has all the ADA equipment installed, and all the MARTA required safety items are installed as well. This vehicle has 3 seats and 1 wheelchair position. The specifics are this is a state of Georgia DOAS contract. The quantity to be procured is 16 vans and 20 minivans. All vehicles shall be delivered to MARTA in FY25. And MARTA Department of Diversity and Inclusion did not assign a DBE goal to this procurement. The Office of Mobility respectfully requests authorization of the resolution to award a contract for MARTA Mobility Vehicles P50615 with an authorized contractor utilizing the state of Georgia contract not to exceed $5,499,784 for the procurement of up to 16 low-floor mobility vans and 20 low-floor minivans to support the MARTA Mobility vehicle fleet. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. I'll entertain a motion in a second. The motion has been moved and properly seconded. Any questions? Mr. Durrett.
Yeah, I know we need to do this, but I'm just shocked at the price, you know, $150,000 on average.
Yep.
And we need more people to go into this business so we have better costs.
So one of the things that has occurred, especially since COVID, is there's one company that has now controls about 80% of the market. So what we've done is we've stepped away from that section of the market, which is cutaway buses, and gone to a smaller van and a minivan, which does give us some cost advantages as well as size advantages. We're trying to right-size the fleet. If you see our mobility buses driving around, usually there will be one wheelchair passenger or one passenger and an attendant. So we're trying to capitalize on that to go with the smaller vehicle, and they're easy to maneuver, and hopefully we'll have less collisions on routes.
Mrs. Agave?
Thank you. Just two questions. One on the vehicle stock. So obviously smaller vehicles, these are great for a lot of reasons. Do you think this is the direction that our fleet is going to be moving in, or is this just happen to be the procurement of the vehicle type we're doing for this?
I think this procurement will give us better information about the direction we should go in. So if you look at our transit fleet, we've got multiple size buses now. We're trying to do the same approach with the mobility fleet. And with the new dispatching software, it becomes easier to dispatch the right size vehicle for the job.
And then just the second question was going to be around ridership. So, I mean, if you look at most of the network, ridership is not moving in the direction that our mobility services ridership is moving in. And just would love to know any color, like any reason that we think that we're seeing this ridership gain specifically on our mobility services at a rate that's different than the rest of the network.
I don't have the ridership information. That would come from Ms. Davis, the acting director of mobility. I do know that we're seeing month over month, we're seeing an increase. And myself, I would attribute it to people want to come to Atlanta, especially older folks.
Yeah, I might add some color to that, Director Zagabwe. It's, I think fixed route and mobility are both moving in the same direction, but fixed route is far more gradual, whereas mobility has already exceeded its pre-COVID, its last registered pre-COVID ridership. So mobility and streetcar are actually above where they used to be. And I would think that that elasticity has a lot to do with you know, the dependency of our mobility customers. So they've been waiting to get back out, waiting to re-engage in the market and in the service, and their choices are less than we have with the folks that normally ride our fixed route. Fixed route ridership had a lot to do with getting to and from work, more so than our mobility ridership. And getting to and from work still remains an option that we're battling.
Okay. Any other questions? Can we please vote? The motion passes.
Thank you very much.
The next item is a resolution authorizing the award of a single source contract for wheel truing machines, maintenance and repair services. And that'll be led by Eric Henderson, Manager of Engineering, Reliability and Rail Car Rehabilitation. Eric?
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Pond, Mr. Greenwood, Mr. McKinney, and members of the Operational Safety and Committee Board. My name is Eric Henderson, Manager of Engineering, Rail Car Reliability, and Rail Car Rehabilitation for our Rail Car Maintenance Department. May I direct your attention to the agenda item requesting a resolution awarding rail car wheel truing services and machine maintenance and repair services for our RFP P50528. The requested resolution authorizes the General Manager, CEO, or his delegate to enter into a contract with NSH USA Corporation. I will address three key areas: the financial considerations, business purpose, procurement details, to demonstrate the necessity and cost effectiveness of this contract. This is a recurring 2-year base term with a 1 option year. This is a single source contract, and it is being approved with fiscal year 2025 operating budget. Funds for subsequent years will be included in the subsequent annual budget. The average annual expense will be $99,070. For the business purpose, I will discuss and the 3 wheel towing machines, the basic maintenance and repairs, NSH annual reports, and the major parts that they will be repairing. MARTA has 3 NSH USA machines, formerly known as Simmons Machines, Tools and Corporations. These 3 machines are located at our Avondale shop, which is 36 years old, our South shop, which is 30 years old, and our Armour shop, which is 20 years old. I draw your attention to the bottom left figure. As you can see, colored in orange is our wheel set. To the left and right of it is our centering device. Under the wheel set, you'll see cutter assemblies, and below that is our C-frame, which is vertically moved up with our centering elevating screw, which moves about 1 inch and a 16th of an inch up to cut the wheels. Excuse me. Now I'll establish context to explain the necessity of our wheel towing machines. The rail car movement is achieved by the frictional forces between the rail head and the wheel surface. This frictional force creates a phenomenon between the rail head and the rail surface, which creates a phenomena of sliding or slip during power or braking movements. During power, a slip phenomenon is created, and during braking, a slide phenomenon is created, both negatively impacting the wheel surface, creating flats, spalling, and imperfections. MARTA's mechanics / operators reprofile the wheels with the NSH USA machines to remove flats, spalling, and imperfections to ultimately mitigate the risk of derailment, decrease vibrations, and enhance customer quality, ride quality. I draw your attention to Figure 2. For compatibility consideration between our current fleet and our new fleet, the NSH USA machines were designed specifically to service our 310, 311, and 312 fleet. Our current CQ400 fleet is fully compatible with this system. Unfortunately, our Streetcar is not compatible with the NSH machine for 3 reasons. 1, the wheel profile, 2, the end cap, and 3, the back-to-back measurement. For number 1, the cutters on the NSH machine is designed to profile our wheel axle sets for the 310 and 311, 312 cars, which is the item you see at the top left is our 310, 311, and 312 wheel axle set. The bottom right is our Streetcar powered axle set. And the end caps for these interfere with the current setup design of our wheel towing machines. Finally, the back-to-back, measuring from the back left wheel to the right wheel, is tighter on the light rail vehicle than our current setup. Maintenance requirements. As currently constructed, MARTA handles the routine maintenance, minor repairs, and inspections. For example of the routine maintenance, we change various filters, changing of the chip guards that protect personnel and the machine from metal shavings, filling of oil, the replacement of cutter blades, and tightening of bolts and fasteners as needed. For example of the minor repairs and inspections, the pre-service inspection, the 8-hour inspection, 40-hour inspection, and 160-hour inspection is designed to ensure the machine is in good working order and to prevent minor issues from escalating into major ones. While MARTA handles the routine maintenance and minor repairs in-house, this contract brings vital services. This is the value of the contract. NSH will perform on-demand failure support, major component replacement, biannual inspections, supply of custom components, access to specialized software, coding, and debugging. This very first bullet is key. Given the age of the machines, the high demand of cutting operations, it is essential to ensure that the machines experiencing a failure receive swift support from our OEM NSH. As it pertains to major component replacement, we have a number of major component failures over the term of the last contract, which has led to the support being required. If I can direct your attention to the picture in the slide, this is a center elevating gear worm, which was rebuilt by NSH during our previous contract. This failure occurred at our Avondale machine. It took NSH less than 1 day to respond, 2 days for a technician to be on site, and about a week for the replacement to be complete. This is a great example of the specialized expertise as well as the on-demand support. And to that point, these machines have undergone a significant electrical upgrade through a previous executed contract with NSH, but they are reaching the end of their mechanical life cycles. To prevent major downtime given their age, a procurement for upcoming mechanical overhaul is underway. The biannual inspections covers the 1,000-hour and 2,000-hour operating inspection, which is designed to address issues that cannot be resolved through the routine maintenance. For example, various key fits, dynamic hydraulic pressure calibration, feed rate testing, and adjustment, and critical tolerance measurements. For context, MARTA does 7 critical measurements, mainly fluid level, during a 160-hour inspection. And NSH does 81 critical tolerance measurements during a biannual inspection. NSH will also stock and supply custom components and provide support for software-related issues. As mentioned before, each machine has undergone a significant electrical upgrade, and these systems were upgraded from MS-DOS, which was released in 1981, to Windows 7, completed in 2022. NSH now has the ability to remote into our PLC and/or computer to diagnose any off-site or extended on-demand support. These scheduled inspections, coupled with the on-demand support, will keep our machines running smoothly. The partnership ensures MARTA has the resources needed to maintain optimal performance and reliability in every road touring cycle. This contract contains our estimates for labor and parts, and it will be billed as used. For procurement considerations, we have the single source, the audit performed, and the DBE content. As the original equipment manufacturer for MARTA's 3 wheel touring machines, who have been intimately involved with the commissioning of all 3 machines, NSH is uniquely equipped with the specialized experience and advanced training and in-depth technical expertise needed to keep these machines in optimal working condition. With this access to essential parts, including custom components, and a deep understanding of MARTA's operational demands, NSH USA is able to deliver rapid, responsive support that ensures MARTA wheel touring machines are fully operational 365 days a year. NSH has submitted their proposal totaling $297,210. The proposal consists of 4 line items for the repair and maintenance services of the 3 wheel touring machines. The contractor submitted field service rates to substantiate their labor costs. Internal audit utilized historical pricing data to substantiate the proposed costs for maintenance inspections. Internal audit also conducted research to substantiate the proposed amount for travel. Based on the review, it was determined that the proposal was fair, reasonable, and supported with sufficient documentation. There is no DBE goal due to this being a single source contract. OEM parts and labor are provided internally by NSH, and there is no consistent shipping of machine components. Because of this, no percentage can be assigned. However, diversity and inclusion provided a list of DBE qualified shippers, and NSH has committed to use them when possible. At this time, I'm requesting that the committee recommend the full MARTA board the procurement of railcar maintenance, wheel touring machine maintenance, and repair services, RFP P50528, with NSH USA in the amount of $297,210 $210. I turn it back to you, Chairman Paul, for any questions. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Eric. I'd entertain a motion and a second. Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded. This is a very small contract, but it's critically important for the operation and safety of the trains. I might pass it on to either Raf or Kali as to maybe a 30-second.
Oh, yeah, sure. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, when it comes to wheel truing, there are two things. One is, you know, the daily comfort and ride quality, and you know, what things sound like when you're developing what we call wheel flats. So even though the system is safe under this first scenario, it's still a very uncomfortable, unpleasant experience for the customers. So the importance of a wheel truing machine and having your own home-based wheel truing machine that you can address these things on a regular basis can't be overstated. So that's ride quality and comfort. The second scenario, though, is far more dire, and that is, you know, if your rail-wheel interface becomes out of alignment due to wear and improper maintenance, you do risk a derailment. And, you know, we've had instances of that throughout not at MARTA, but throughout the country, where more attention is deemed necessary for this very interface. So that's why I was really, you know, happy to have this presentation kind of shared with the board for the importance of this service.
Thank you. Ms. Hardage?
I guess I was going to echo what you said. In all my years of being here on the board, I was fortunate enough, and I think board members have also been able to tour these facilities and see this happening. And if you talk to the employees that take such pride in doing this work,
Yes.
we're fortunate that we have this program at MARTA. And what it doesn't show in the presentation is how much money we save by doing it this way.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's I don't even know what that number would be, but if we had to outsource this job, can you imagine what that would cost? So I just wanted to say thank you to all the people that do this work, because I do understand the commitment and how important it is to making those rail cars work every day.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, and just to add to that, you're right. If you recall with the streetcar incident, I guess it was nearly 2 years ago, where we didn't have the equipment on property to deal with that. So the time and money associated with loss of vehicles is substantial. So I'm glad that that's not what's facing our heavy rail fleet, but our light rail fleet is susceptible to that.
Okay. I'll call the question. Can we please vote? The motion passes. The next item on the agenda is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract for the support of the state of Georgia's Safety and Oversight Program. That'll be led by Gina Major, our Deputy Chief Safety Quality Assurance Manager.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Pond, Mr. Greenwood, Mr. McKinney, and members of the Operations and Safety Committee. I'm Gina Major, Deputy Chief of Safety and Quality Assurance. May I direct your attention to agenda item number 4. This is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract for support of the State of Georgia Safety and Oversight Program, L50617. Uh-oh. Oh, I'm going back. Help. Sorry. Thank you. Okay, today I'm going to provide a summary of the contract for professional services with the Boyd Caton Group. I will give some history of the support that they have been providing the Department of Safety and Quality Assurance since 2021, their high-level task, and then a request for award approval. Boyd Caton Group is a small woman-owned consulting firm that has been in business for almost 30 years. Their subject matter expertise is in safety, security, and emergency preparedness, within the public transportation industry. The scope of this contract is for professional services that are in direct support of the state's safety oversight program run by the Georgia Department of Transportation. The state safety oversight program continues to expand due to increased regulations from FTA that I will discuss a bit more later. The length of the contract is for 3 years with an annual value of $824,418.71 and a total value of $2,473,266.12. The terms and pricing of this contract have been reviewed by internal audit and found to be fair and reasonable. The Office of Diversity and Inclusion did not assign a DBE goal due to this being a letter of agreement for professional services. BCG actually began working with MARTA in support of the State Safety Oversight Program in 2021. They have subject matter expertise in transit policy and development. They provide technical assistance, conduct safety audits and reviews, as well as safety-related training, data analysis, strategic planning, safety inspections, and examinations. They are probably best known for the development and implementation of safety management systems, or SMS, at public transit agencies. They are actually a contractor to the Federal Transit Administration since the onset or beginning of the SMS initiative. And we are fortunate to have had FTA approve BCG's work with MARTA. When they began working with MARTA in early 2021, we were in the midst of working to close out findings from GDOT's 2019 triennial audit. And you may recall that our director of SMS, Dedrick Parham, provided a briefing to this board last month on the successful closeout of our 2022 triennial audit. He shared these graphs showing the improvement from 2019. And BCG was a critical partner to this success. If you look at the cap closure rate from 2019, you will note that the significant rate of cap closure that began from about April 2021 to December 2021. BCG was instrumental in helping us to ensure that our corrective actions were responsive to the state's findings. This progress continued through to close out an improvement of our 2022 audit. BCG actually conducted a pre-audit of our system prior to the state's audit as part of our readiness efforts. Additional areas where Boyd Caton provided critical support of the State Safety Oversight Program included GDOT compliance investigations, safety event investigations, and CAP development, as well as safety and security certification of our capital improvement programs. Ongoing support includes support of several initiatives and directives recently issued by FTA. These include FTA Directive 24-1 on transit worker assaults, which states that transit agencies subject to FTA's Public Transportation Agency safety plans must conduct a safety risk assessment, identify safety risk mitigations or strategies, and provide information to FTA on how they are assessing, mitigating, and monitoring the safety risk associated with assaults on our transit workers. The risk-based inspections program gives GDOT the authority to access and conduct inspections on MARTA's facilities and property, including announced and unannounced inspections. They will have the capability to inspect and review our infrastructure, equipment, records, designated personnel, and data, including data MARTA collects on safety risk. In fact, GDOT's program was just formally approved by FTA, but they actually began work over a year ago and have conducted a couple of unannounced inspections, including an inspection of the airport shutdown, which resulted in favorable feedback that I'll share a little snippet of. And this is from GDOT. It said the inspection team did not observe any safety concerns regarding safety communication methods MARTA has set up to move patrons between the shuttle and the Atlanta International Airport during the construction shutdown. The pathway signage MARTA laid out was well marked and gave explicit directions along the way. Inside the airport, MARTA had placed signages and employees to direct and display the safe and secure path to the shuttle from the airport. Along the pathway, MARTA secured areas from the public to avoid entry, and it was also noted that there were directions laid out on the floor of the baggage claim to guide patrons intending to use the shuttle service. Due to the MARTA airport station being closed for construction, the inspection at the airport station was focused on observing surrounding areas for patron safe access to the shuttle service. Next initiative, dealing with FTA roadway worker protection. This requires rail transit agencies nationwide, or they will have 1 year to create a worker protection program geared at personnel who work on or around the tracks, implement comprehensive training for workers, and ensure that unsafe acts and conditions are reported. So there's a lot of guidance coming from FTA in a very short amount of time, and these directives are often prescriptive. BCG will support MARTA in our responses and timely implementation of these initiatives. They will also begin helping us with pre-audit activities ahead of next year's GDOT triennial audit. As mentioned previously, they have subject matter expertise in all of these areas and currently serve as a consultant to FTA. Some of the other items shown under risk management include support of our Safety Risk Review Committee. This is a cross-functional safety committee here at MARTA. High priority investigations. Also, we're doing more rules compliance monitoring activities, and we're embarking upon implementation of risk management software. With that, I would like to request authorization to award professional services contract L50617 to Boyd Caton Group in a total amount not to exceed $2,473,266.12. With that, Chair Pine, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Gina. I'll entertain a motion and a second. It's been moved and properly seconded. Any questions, discussion? If there's none, I'll call the question. Can we please vote? The motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract for 45 utility police interceptors, and that'll be led by Anthony Morrow, General Superintendent for Bus Maintenance. Anthony.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Pond, Mr. Greenwood, Mr. McKinney, and members of the Operations Safety Committee. My name is Anthony Morrow. I am the General Superintendent of Bus Maintenance, and I manage our non-revenue fleet. May I direct your attention to agenda item number 5. This is for a contract for 45 police utility vehicles utilizing the state of Georgia contract. Atlanta is a good place, and it's a good place to have events. As you take a look at upcoming events, we have a lot of major events that are coming to Atlanta. The FIFA World Cup, SEC Championship, several marathons, and since we did such a good job in 2019 with the Super Bowl, they're coming back for Super Bowl 62. With these major events, MARTA Police is going to be all hands on deck. So I'm here for a request to make sure they have the proper equipment, what they're going to need to make sure that we service our riding customers and keep them safe. If you remember last month, I was here for a procurement for non-revenue vehicles for a 5-year contract. That is going to help to stabilize our fleet and make sure we buy vehicles every year and on a regular replacement schedule. I would definitely like to thank Chief Crair and Chief McKinney and the rest of MARTA Police for working with us and seeing the vision, what we're trying to do in a regular procurement and make sure they're getting vehicles every year. But unfortunately, we're kind of in a little bit of a hole. If you take a look at the left of it, we normally retire vehicles at 100,000 miles. Right now, 49% of our vehicles have met or exceeded that 100,000 mile goal. To the right, the chart, you see in 2021 and 2022, we did not buy any police vehicles at all. That's because the manufacturers, they stopped making them in 2020. You know, that little bit of a situation kind of puts us, you know, in a little bit of a valley right now to where we wouldn't have had to buy vehicles, but we need a little bit of bump to get us up to where we need to be. As you see in 2023 and 2024, getting back on track, and in 2025 and beyond, we'll be more on track and replacing vehicles on a regular procurement schedule. But since these major events are coming up, we need to play a little bit of catch up with the MARTA police fleet, which is our largest fleet. The vehicle that the MARTA Police has chosen is the 2024 Police Interceptor. This vehicle is widely accepted and liked by all the major police agencies around the Atlanta area. Now, what Ford does is they would build a base vehicle, and they would go ahead and supply them to the major areas. So when police fleet need them, they just say, hey, I need 10 vehicles, 5 vehicles. They have them on stock, and they're available now. So there will be little to no delay in getting these vehicles once the purchase order is issued. We like this vehicle because it is 10% less than the Chevy Tahoes in the purchase, and also 5% less in the cost per mile. These are V6 vehicles, and they're very economical for the agency, and it's a very, very good police vehicle. That's the vehicle that we have chosen. We're asking for 45 vehicles. 15 of these will be for patrol, 15 will be for canine. There is no standard vehicle to come from Ford built for police. They build a base vehicle, and then the different agencies, we have to outfit them for how we need. So the Interceptor is a Ford Explorer. One will be outfitted to carry a dog, other will be outfitted to carry a person. The total request for this is $2,250,000. This will be used as a state of Georgia contract. And with that, Chairman Pond, I turn it back over to you for any kind of questions.
Thank you, Anthony. I'd entertain a motion in a second. It's been moved and properly seconded. Any questions for Mr. Morrow? Mr. Zagabi.
Just a quick question, personal curiosity. It seems like even when I look at APD, a lot of police agencies are moving towards more SUV type vehicles rather than sedans. Is there any reason behind that, and a reason that we're moving in that direction as well?
Good question. Yes, with the SUV, it's just you have a lot more options what you want to do with it. One of the big things that we do, the police agencies, they'll put like a firearm securement box in the back of it. So with the Dodge Charger or some of the smaller sedans, if you put that big securement box in the back, it basically takes up your whole trunk. With this, you can put a securement box in the back of it, or you can put special, like some of our vehicles are admin vehicles, some of them are the special tactics vehicles. Just a lot more options you can do with this base vehicle and still not have a different maintenance program than what you'll have in the other vehicles.
Thank you.
I see no other questions. I'll call the question. Can we please vote? The motion passes. Thank you. The next item is a resolution authorizing a modification in contractual authorization for MARTA's Decatur Traction Power and Supply Substation. That'll be led by Eddie Matthews, Director of Maintenance and Way. Eddie?
All right. Good morning, Chairman Pond, Mr. Greenwood, Mr. McKinney, and members of the Operations and Safety Committee. My name is Eddie Matthews, Director of Maintenance of Way. And I'd like to direct your attention to agenda item number 6, IFB B50350. This is a resolution authorizing a modification in contractual authorization for MARTA's Decatur Traction Power Substation, Phase 1 and 2 replacement. The traction power substation consists of several critical pieces of equipment that work together to convert the incoming Georgia Power 2,000 volt alternating current into 750 volt direct current that is used to power MARTA's trains. MARTA currently has a total of 41 traction power substations that provide traction power to our mainline system and train yards. The Decatur Traction Power Substation experienced a critical failure of the traction power equipment, preventing this substation from producing power. This station is currently operating as a gap or a pass-through for traction power from the adjacent traction power substations. In the event that any of the adjacent traction power substations fail, we would have a situation where we lose our ability to power trains through this section of track. An addendum was issued to include the addition of the Westlake Traction Power Substation because the repair work is similar. The Westlake Traction Power Substation is currently operating on one primary Georgia Power incoming feed and has lost its ability of a secondary feed or alternate Georgia Power feed. Without redundancy, a failure of the Georgia Power or working AC equipment at this location would reduce the substation to a gap, increasing the risk of our ability to power trains in this area and compromising our system further. In November 2023, the board approved a resolution authorizing the general manager or his delegate to enter into a contract with Southeast Switchgear for $385,888 for the repair of the Decatur and Westlake traction power substations. However, after work began, it was determined that the condition of the equipment was much worse than originally estimated, and additional work would have to be done to refurbish the TPSS equipment, well, the traction power equipment. Parts that were initially estimated to be reconditioned would have to be replaced as they were deteriorated past refurbishment. Southeast Switchgear submitted an updated detailed cost estimate to MARTA for an additional $798,000, bringing the contractual total to $1,183,888. The contract term would also be extended for an additional 8 months to September 25th, 2025 to complete the additional work. Included in your board package under agenda item number 6 is the resolution authorizing a modification in contractual authorization for MARTA's Decatur Traction Power Substation Phase 1 and 2 replacement. The modification is being funded with 100% capital funds. The audit report indicated that the quote was a fair and reasonable price. However, the report did state that $33,000 was unsupported by audit and would need to be verified by the Electrical Power Group. The verification was completed by the Electrical Power Group and signed off by the General Manager. At this time, I respectfully request the Operations and Safety Committee's approval of a resolution authorizing the General Manager or his delegate to modify the contract with Southeast Switchgear for an additional 8 months and $798,000 for the repair of the Decatur and Westlake Traction Power Substation. Thank you for your time and attention, and I'll turn it back over to you, Chairman Pond.
Thank you, Eddie. Could I entertain a motion and a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. Are there any questions from Mr. Matthew? Mr. Frison.
Yeah, I want to understand it. So, is this a replacement of both these particular power stations? I'm looking here at labor and replacement. So this is a replacement. Is that what this is? Or?
So some parts will be replaced, some parts will be refurbished. So it's not a total replacement of the equipment. We actually have a contract, well, a project that will replace the entire all the equipment in the building. Right now it's more of a refurbishment, but some of the parts were, some of the equipment were in a state that they could not be refurbished, so some of them had to be replaced.
Okay. And you mentioned in here in the audit indicated that the quote was fair and reasonable. How $33,000 is still unsupported?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because some of those parts that had to be rebuilt, well, actually remanufactured, they had to build them from scratch and give it to us. Audit had no base to compare it to, so the technical group had to approve that $33,000.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll call the question. Can we please vote? The motion passes.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a resolution authorizing a modification for refuge and removal services, and that'll be led by Sean Thomas, Director of Facilities.
Good morning, Chairman Pond. I'll get to the right presentation here. All right. Good morning, Chairman Pond, Mr. Greenwood, Mr. McKinney, and members of the Operations and Safety Committee. My name is Sean Thomas. I'm the Director of Facilities. And if I may, I'd like to bring your attention to the agenda item, which is a resolution authorizing a modification in contractual authorization for refuse and removal services, RFP P50611. So some of the key topics that I'll discuss today, I'll provide a business purpose, a brief overview of the scope, a little bit of the background for context of how we got here, financial analysis to be followed by a recommendation. So with respect to the business purpose, this contract for refuse and removal services supports two of our strategic initiatives, and those are improving the customer experience and promoting MARTA's image and brand. So the contract itself provides for routine refuse removal services of 69 containers of various sizes at 35 locations across the authority. To ensure our flexibility, considering the numerous rehabilitation and relocation projects, we've also included will call pickups for emergencies and or special events at any of those locations. With respect to the background information here, our last long-term contract was originally awarded to Advanced Disposal in 2017. This company was later acquired by Waste Management in 2020. Waste Management assumed the contract and provided services to the authority from that time through September of this year. And as a note, there will be a future agenda item that will come before the board to close out that contract as we finalize the reconciliation process between the transition. It's also important to note that the authority has solicited for new service providers numerous times. So those solicitation numbers which you see, IFB 49103, 49103A, 50243, 50243A, each of those were separate attempts to solicit for this service, which ultimately led to us being forced to enter into two short-term interim agreements to make sure that we had continuity of this critical service, which of course is what brings me here today to request the contractual authorization for the last interim contract, which is P50611, which is with Republic Services of Georgia. So with respect to financial considerations, the interim agreement with Republic Services of Georgia was initially for $185,000, and that was negotiated from one of the previously mentioned bid submissions. This agreement expires on December 28th of 2024, and the modification request before you today is for $1,714,741.45, and that'll give us an additional 2.5 years of refuse and removal services with Republic Services of Georgia. This will also bring the total contract value to $1,899,741.45. In closing, the Office of Facilities respectfully requests authorization to modify and extend contract P50611 for refuse removal services with Republic Services of Georgia for an additional amount of $1,714,741.45 for an additional 2.5 years of service. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time and consideration, and I now turn it back over to you, Chairman.
Thank you, Sean. I'd entertain a motion and a second. We have a motion and a second. It's been properly made. Any questions from Mr. Thomas? Mr. Zagabi.
Thank you for the update. Just a question. I'm a little maybe confused and a little concerned, but we entered into a 3-month contract with an interim one, and now we're looking to modify a 3-month contract to a 2.5-year contract and, grow it by, 10 times what the original contract was. Is there a reason that we got a short contract that we're extending to a very long one rather than going after a long one? I know that you outlined that this has a bit of history and solicitation, but I'm just a little confused as to why we went into an interim and we're extending it rather than having just signed a longer contract from the beginning.
Yes, sir. It's a great question. So the 4 IFBs that are referenced in the middle, from B49103 down to 50243A, each of those were efforts to solicit for a long-term agreement over the past 2 years, and limited response, lack of responsive bidders, lack of responsibility of bidders essentially led us to a point where we could not award a long-term agreement based off of those solicitation attempts. Essentially, we did enter into an interim agreement with Waste Management to make sure that we could continue to provide the services without any gap. But Republic actually came in and they were able to perform the services. All right.
Okay. Good morning, Chairman Pond, Mr. Greenwood, Mr. McKinney, and other members of the committee. My name is Jacqueline Holland. I'm the Senior Director of Contracts, Procurement, and Materials. So basically, Waste Management contract expired in June. We did several attempts to get bids, and we didn't get anything. So we did an interim contract with them under Mr. Greenwood's authority. That contract ended in September. They chose not to continue business with us. We ended up negotiating with Republic under Mr. Greenwood's authority. That's why you see the 185. So that was only 3 months. So this will be a contract for a couple of years because we have had such a tough time. So that's why we had this short interim. Waste Management did not want to continue business with MARTA, so we entered into a contract with Republic under Mr. Greenwood's authority of 185.
And just to confirm, when we tried to let this as a longer-term contract, did Republic bid on it?
Okay. So several times when we did an attempt, we got pricing back upwards of $10 million. Another time, so we went back out because that wasn't, not within our budget. We went back out, we didn't get responsible bidders or responsive bidders. So we've tried so many different times. They either, if they were not responsive, they didn't follow instructions, or they didn't provide forms that we asked for, didn't complete the documents accordingly, or they were not responsible bids. So, but those many attempts, we decided to negotiate. The MARTA Act does allow us to negotiate if we don't receive responsive and responsible bids. So that's why we are here with this situation.
Okay, thank you.
And for clarification, internal audit has reviewed the numbers, right?
Internal audit did do a cost and price analysis, and they determined the pricing was fair and reasonable. Right. They did not change their pricing from when we went into the smaller contract. So they kept their rates the same, and we're just extending it at this time.
Okay, thank you. I'll call the question. Please vote. motion passes.
Is the vote aligns with the resolution because we have the switch?
I am not sure.
She's gonna switch votes. Even for rep one, she just has to redo it in the system, so instead of shutting down, she'll switch the votes.
Logistical issue, the computers and the worksheets don't match up. Okay. The next item is a resolution authorizing a modification for the contractual authorization for technical support and spare supply services for the Atlanta Streetcar, and that'll be led by Lawrence Graham, General Superintendent.
Good afternoon, Chairman Bond, Mr. Greenwood, Mr. McKinney, and members of the Operations and Safety Committee. My name is Lawrence Graham, and I am the General Superintendent over the Light Rail Department. And may I direct your attention to the agenda resolution authorizing a modification and contractual authorization for technical support and spare supply services for the Atlanta Streetcar S70 light rail vehicles FC 9839. So just a little overview of what we're going to talk about today is the current contract with Siemens, a fleet status of our vehicles, the purpose of this modification, and lastly, the resolution for approval. So our current contract with Siemens, as of right now, dealing with their scope, is that they provide technical and spare parts supply services for Atlanta Streetcar S70 light rail vehicles. Thus includes preventative maintenance kits. What this means is if ever any component stopped working or failed in any way that was not of MARTA's, the kits. So basically, our Siemens representative on site provides maintenance kits all throughout our inspections, dealing from monthly inspections all the way to annual inspections. They provide replacement parts such as filters, anything that is needs to be replaced during that inspection. As far as the repair parts, what this means is if ever any components stopped working or failed in any way that was not of MARTA's fault, Siemens would either repair or replace that component at no charge to MARTA. From beginning of the year to now, Siemens has replaced a couple of parts from our auxiliary power supply and also HVAC that has produced over 100K in repairs. That was no charge to MARTA. Dealing with our technical and engineering support services, sometimes we have failures or faults that have us at a standstill dealing with our light rail maintenance. During these times, we are able to receive the support of our on-site Siemens technical manager for hands-on and ad hoc training, and if need be, by Siemens engineering support as well. Tire kits, so basically we have spare wheels for the trucks if ever they needed replacement for any reason. As far as a vehicle accident investigation and reporting, dealing with any accidents or incidents that may happen on the main line, upon request, Siemens provides a very detailed report by looking at all the system logs within the Streetcar and make sure of all components, electrical, mechanical, and hydraulics were all working properly during that specific accident or incident. And on a monthly basis, Siemens also provides a monthly report just stating, what inspections went on that month and what we're looking forward to in the next months coming up. The last two bullets, dealing with brake overhauls and wheel truing, are past modifications to the contract in which Siemens subcontracts respectively Knorr for the brake overhauls and for the wheel truing. We do send our trucks over to Orlando over to an agency called Brightline, where Siemens cuts the wheels and reprofiles our wheels on our trucks. So our fleet status, as you may know, we have 4 streetcars, 1001 all the way to 1004. And currently, we have been killing 2 birds with 1 stone with these needed tasks of brake overhauls and wheel truing. We have taken a set of trucks or bogies off of 1003, and we have taken all the calipers and track brakes off those trucks to send over to Kenora for overhaul, which is about 90% of the brake components. The electro-hydraulic units are the other components, as you see on your top left. They were taken off as well and sent to Kenora. Once all the brake components were taken off the trucks, we sent the trucks to the Brightline facility in Orlando, Florida. Adapters were purchased to hold down our trucks, and Siemens coordinates with Brightline of the truing. Currently, 2 of our power trucks have been trued, and very soon with our sender truck down in Orlando. Once the trucks come back, we will install all the brake components back, and then we'll put the trucks back under the Streetcar to put back into revenue service. Once we have documentation and necessary tests and specs, we will put the Streetcar back in service and start the whole process again with the next Streetcar. So the purpose of this modification, as you see, is we want to extend the technical support service for an additional 6 months. And within this 6 months, we want to incorporate additional time for a longer term contract with Siemens. As you may or may not know, the original contract was given to us by the City of Atlanta, and we've had control of it since November of 2017. What we want to do is start fresh, with MARTA's terms and conditions. We just want to start fresh with a new contract with Siemens. Additional purpose is the procurement of overhaul components with long lead times. And we also want to increase the accident and vandalism allowance. And unfortunately, we do have minor incidents and accidents with the streetcars, and that's where we utilize that allowance for any needed parts, such as bumpers or skirts on the streetcar that may have been ran over by a POV. And lastly, we don't need gaps in our needed services, meaning we want to continue the service of the brake overhauls and also the wheel truing. We don't want gaps in that service. And as you can see, the current value of the contract is around $6.5 million. The materials was around $998,000. 583,000 of that 998 was audited and deemed fair and reasonable. 415,000 was audited but was unsubstantiated. We did create a memo to Mr. Greenwood for approval of that amount, in which he approved that unsubstantiated amount. The additional funds requested, the $1 million, which has not been audited yet. When submitting the request, unfortunately, we had an oversight, and this amount was not included in the overall request. This oversight has been corrected, and an additional audit will be requested. We will not move forward with modifying the contract until an audit is completed, and we are very confident this amount will have no issues moving forward. With that being said, I would like to request the approval of this resolution authorizing the modification and contractual authorization for technical support and spare supply services for the Atlanta Streetcar S70 light rail vehicles FC 9839 with Siemens Industry Incorporated for the amount of $2,067,331.54.
Thank you, Lawrence.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion in a second. It's been properly moved and seconded. Any questions from Mr. Graham? Mr. Durrett?
So we're approving this, but you would not enter into the contract until you get the report back from audit.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Well, let me clarify. So
Yep,
it's gonna have 2 modifications. The first one will be for the lower amount. The second one will be for the $1 million that we're waiting for the audit on. So we'll enter into the first modification to keep moving, and the second one we'll do later, after the audit comes back.
Okay.
Instead of bringing 2 agenda items to you at 2 separate times, we brought it at once. It's going to have 2 parts, so just look at it as part 1A and 1B. 1A, we will enter into it immediately because it's cleared all the audit requirements and we'll get board approval. The second one, once it gets the audit approval and that's cleared, we'll enter into that second modification.
But you don't need to come back to the board for that? Because
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Zagabi.
A question, and this may be for you, Collie, but under the Streetcar East design work, I think the first piece of work we said was, let's look at potential improvements to the existing streetcar. And just what I want to confirm is, do we believe that that piece of work is going to be done before this contract ends from the standpoint of rebidding a new contract? If there are changes that need to be made, making sure that we have the scope within a contract like this, if there are changes that need to be happening for safety reasons.
Yeah, so do I believe the vehicle assessment portion of the Streetcar East contract will be complete before we complete this contract lifetime? Yes, I do believe we will be there.
I've got one question. I missed this in a prior discussion, pre-brief, but the $400,000, what I thought I heard was internal audit has approved everything except the $400,000. And I was a little unsure, are we approving that? Could we get some clarification?
Yeah, so internal audit, when the requisition came in, it was for the initial $900,000 worth of additional funds. That would be, if you go back to the second to last slide under purpose. So the initial requisition, they looked at, the audit looked at both the additional funds request and the additional funds requested below that, so the almost $998,000 plus. They deemed the first $580,000 fair and reasonable. The second was unsubstantiated. However, our process does allow that the GM to sign off saying that he's comfortable, he or she is comfortable with those numbers and move forward. So that $900,000, a little over $1 million, has followed the process, is ready to move forward. The additional $1,068,000 was left off the initial requisition, so it did not go through audit. So they are now looking at that, and will come, and that'll get entered into that modification hopefully in January.
I'll call the question. Can we please vote? The motion passes. The only other item left are the key performance indicators, and they're in the board package for your review. And with that, we'll adjourn the meeting.
At this time, we're going to call to order the Thursday, November 21st External Relations Committee meeting to order. First on the agenda, may I have a motion for approval of the July 25th, 2024 External Relations Committee meeting minutes? Moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none, let us vote. And Mr. Frierson. You're good. Ms. Jones, are you good? Great, thank you. Having a little difficulty. At this time, we'll have a briefing on the 2024 election update from Michael Rashun, Government Affairs Program Manager.
Thank you, Chair Scott and members of the committee. My name is Michael Rafshun, Government Affairs Manager at MARTA, and I'm joined by my colleague, Jennifer LaRosa, Senior Director of Government Affairs, to provide the 2024 update on the election. There were significant changes at the federal level from the November 5th election. Former President Donald Trump was reelected, and with a new president means new leadership at the agency level and new cabinet members. Representative Lucy McBath and Representative Rich McCormick were reelected, but in different districts. Representative McBath now represents Georgia's 6th congressional district, which includes Cobb and North Fulton counties, and Representative Rich McCormick, his district shifted to Georgia's 7th congressional district, which includes North Fulton and Gwinnett counties. The House remains a Republican chamber, and the U.S. Senate, Democrats lost 3 seats, providing a Republican majority. Turning towards state government, first off, MARTOC Chair Deborah Silcox, well, she had a uniquely challenging re-election given her new district, but she was nonetheless re-elected. As you know, Chair Silcox has been a transit champion at the Gold Dome, and we look forward to a continued partnership with Chair Silcox. The composition of the Georgia House remains largely unchanged. We will be welcoming in Bryce Berry in District 56 and Robert Dawson in District 65, both of whom will be members of the Fulton legislative delegation. And in the composition of the Georgia Senate, similarly remains unchanged. However, we will be welcoming in Kenya Wicks to the Clayton legislative delegation and Randall Mangum, who returns to the legislature after a 14-year hiatus, and he will be a member of the DeKalb legislative delegation. Turning to our local jurisdictions, in the city of Atlanta, Atlanta School Board Chair Ishay Collins is in a runoff with Nikki Jones. That runoff is set for December 3rd. In Clayton County, Clayton Commissioner Alika Anderson was elected chair of the Clayton County Commissioners, and we look forward to continuing our productive partnership with Chair-elect Anderson. Elena Reeves, a member of MARTA's Riders Advisory Council, will take Chair-elect Anderson's seat, and Tasha Allen was elected to the vacant District 3 seat in Clayton County. In Fulton County, Mo Ivory was elected in District 4, and there will be many changes in DeKalb County leadership. Commissioner Lorraine Cochran-Johnson was elected CEO of the Board of Commissioners, and Andrew Bell and Nicole Messiah are in the December 3rd runoff for District 3. Shakira Johnson was elected to the vacant District 4 seat, and Jacqueline Adams and Ladina Bolton are in the December 3rd runoff as well, and that's in Super District 7. Now, what this means for the authority, I'll turn to my colleague.
I'd like to thank everyone in the audience who stuck around for external affairs today. So, federal impacts. An updated version of the CIG policy guidance is currently under review at the White House. We do expect final guidance by January 2025. During the first Trump administration, CIG grant agreements were approved, but they require demonstrating strong business community support and reduced federal cost share, so we'll be looking to some of that as we start applying for those again. As to grant obligations, it is common practice for incoming administrations to pause unobligated spending when they enter office. In general, however, it is difficult to get those rescinded by Congress, so we'll just watch that process as it moves forward. General formula funds are unlikely to be targeted, and then if 2016 or 2020 is a predictor of the Trump administration in 24, we can expect FTA discretionary grants to favor road projects over transit and rural projects over urban. Because the composition of the Georgia General Assembly has mostly unchanged, we look forward to continuing to work with our partners in the state leadership, especially Deborah Silcox. And then changes to FTA's CIG program and other discretionary grant programs will have local impacts. But overall, new leadership, as Michael mentioned, in both Clayton and DeKalb, provides new opportunities for collaborations, ideas, and new projects that we can deliver for our local jurisdictions. We'll take questions on that.
Are there any questions? Any questions? Hearing none, thank you. Ms. LaRosa, Jennifer LaRosa, will give us a briefing on the 2025 Government Affairs Legislative Agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. I do want to give props to Michael. That was his first board presentation, and he loves elections, so yes. Again, so glad so many people were here to see it. Thank you, Chair Scott, Vice Chair Ide, Mr. Greenwood, Mr. Parker, and the rest of the board members here today. Senior Director of Government Affairs, Jennifer LaRosa, for your 2025 legislative update. Last year, we tried some local legislation through the City of Atlanta delegations at the state. We were met with some issues of constitutionality and general Republican dislike for camera enforcement across the state. The issue I'm sure you may have heard of with the school zone cameras for the past few years have contributed in large part to the Republicans' objection to camera enforcement. This year, we'll run a general only applying to the City of Atlanta, so general only legislation, not local, and that and being in just the City of Atlanta, as that's the only jurisdiction in the impending BRT route, negating any question of constitutionality that we previously had. And I'll talk more about some of the details of that legislation and strategy in the next few slides. Other than the camera enforcement, last year we were approached with some stakeholders about supporting CDL tests being administered in different languages. I think we certainly would support this again to help expand our workforce. And as you likely know, tort reform has been an issue for a number of years. We will watch the changes to this issue as it works through the General Assembly to ensure there are no negative impacts to MARTA and the processes that we have. So going back to camera enforcement, this legislation is crucial to the success of the investment made by all stakeholders and citizens involved. Without this legislation, law enforcement could still write tickets, but we certainly would not want to strain those much-needed resources while trying to provide the most reliable and predictable transit services. Keeping these lanes clear would also benefit our EMS and first responders to respond to any issues downtown or near that alignment. Last year, we heard some concerns on a few topics. Again, one being constitutionality with non-uniformity civil violations in the MARTA Act. General legislation only applying to City of Atlanta, again, would satisfy that concern. The violations resulting in arrest for those who may not receive the payment or can't afford it. Those are 2 points in the the new draft, to respond to this concern. First, the fee schedule allows forgiveness for the first violation if the violators take an online class, matching distracted driving, if anyone recalls those, passed a few years ago, passed by the General Assembly. Also, this language clarifies that the violation will in no way, shape, or form result in arrest, simply the prevention of your annual registration until the fee is paid or the class is taken online for those first-time violators. There'll also be a mandatory 6-month education notification campaign where violators will be just warned for the first 6 months. This is a much longer period than any of our counterparts across the nation that have utilized such a system. And then clarifying the cameras will be on the buses and not seen on any type of infrastructure on the road. This certainly alleviates any concern of extra visible infrastructure. This also means not everyone who enters the lanes will receive a violation, which is one concern. Just those who get caught in front of the buses and preventing the traffic flow, as this is not meant to be a gotcha, but a true enforcement to create reliable service and protect the investment of the citizens. We've also added a 5-year sunset. This would give the new mode and the vendors allowed a chance to prove that we are good actors in this enforcement space, gather statistics and data on the violations year after year, and report back to the General Assembly. And it also gives us time to expand the scope of this legislation, getting some support from much needed stakeholders and leaders before we go to opening up our next BRT alignment. We have certainly taken advantage of our off-season and met with many key leadership, stakeholders, and previous naysayers. We listened, we explained the details with the time and the legislation. These meetings were very fruitful in that they were able to tell us what legislation changes we needed to alleviate any of the concern and gain some much needed support. We are circling back to some of those meetings and sharing this new draft legislation and other key pieces of information that are helpful to those stakeholders and those leaders, and especially our local delegations in the city of Atlanta, as that is the delegation that this affects on this alignment. And also, we'll continue our effort to be an even better stakeholder and partner by inviting newly elected officials, all of which Michael mentioned earlier, to HQ and IOC to give a full MARTA program update, tell them about the legislative agenda. And we're currently scheduling some of what has become our annual tradition of hosting some lunch and learns with each of our state delegations to do similar updates, including this legislative agenda. And then we're working with committee chairs for some other committees then to do some of the good news presentations of what we do here at MARTA. I'll take any questions.
Going back to tort reform, and I think we all know we just are writing checks for $9 million and $6 million from our prior board meeting. I think that's an important issue. I know the legislature is dominated by probably too many attorneys, not to say anything bad about our great friends, the attorneys, but getting some sort of legislation to protect MARTA aligns with a lot of businesses in Georgia, and somehow I think we need to give that high priority going forward.
Yeah, I think we all agree with you, and we're having conversations with multiple different companies, sectors, to kind of participate with them in trying to put something forward that would, benefit all property owners who are feeling the impacts of, some of these jury awards. So we're definitely having the conversations. I wouldn't say that you will see us out front or our name on stuff, but we're having the conversations behind the scene. We find that's a lot more efficient and effective for MARTA. So just because you're not seeing it out there, you just know that the legal department as well as external affairs with Jennifer and Stephen and Kali are working on that on a regular basis.
Are there any other questions or comments? Mr. Frierson?
Yeah, I wanted to get back to the legislation concerning the cameras. I understand that this a third party would be the one that would be responsible for collecting the data and issuing the fines.
Yes, sir.
Is that right? And so I didn't realize that you mentioned that the cameras would just be on the buses. They
Yes,
won't
sir.
be on any place else.
Correct.
Okay. All right. If this legislation passed through what you're talking about, will this cover all the jurisdictions? I mean, as we talk about putting BRT in other spaces, or do we have to kind of look at it district by district?
So this draft as it is just City of Atlanta, so it would only cover BRT and bus-only lanes in City of Atlanta. And so it has a 5-year sunset. That made a lot of our leadership more comfortable. That gives us the time to expand that scope, but show that those third-party vendors that you were just mentioning are good actors in this space, and that we can report back, much like we do to the MARTA committee already, all of those statistics on those violations.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Williamson?
Hey, Jennifer, great presentation all the way around. Just curious, what are the lunch and learns with the state delegations that you're going to be doing?
What or when did you say?
What are
What?
they about?
Okay.
Yeah.
So we invite each of the delegations here to headquarters to lunch, and we do the MARTA program for their jurisdiction, any update that on any of the projects in those jurisdictions, and then we give them the legislative agenda as well.
I'd be interested to get invited to that. We have a great relationship with our delegation in Clayton, and we want to continue to make sure that they know that they can connect with the chamber at all times too.
Mm-hmm.
So
We will be sure to invite the jurisdictional board members to the jurisdictions of those.
that's perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions? I have a couple. First of all, thank you, Ms. Williamson, because last year we were not invited to the Lunch and Learn with the CAB, and I want to make sure that we are invited as well. And also, the legislation that you mentioned, is it a memorandum of understanding or is it an actual legislation?
It is new statute to the MARTA Act.
Pardon me?
It'll be new statute to the MARTA Act.
To the MARTA Act,
Mhm.
by the City of Atlanta only?
Only affecting City of Atlanta, a general bill, yes.
Yes. So do we have a bill number?
Not yet, because we haven't dropped legislation to get a bill number. As we enter a new biennial in January, we'll shop this draft around, make sure Ledge Council and the chair folks of whatever committees it is assigned to are okay with it. Once it drops by the champion of the bill, which I think will be Deborah Silcox this time, so that's why we were quite happy that she was reelected. And that's when we'll be able to have a bill number to track for you guys.
Okay, so therefore, what you're saying, we expect her to be the sponsor.
Yes, ma'am. So she was the champion when we were going to do general legislation last fall. We changed that tactic to be a local bill by recommendation of some stakeholders and some leadership at that time. That local bill going only through the City of Atlanta delegation, we changed the champion to Chairwoman Betsy Holland. And so with this going back to general legislation, Republican MARTOC Chair Deborah Silcox would be a better fit.
Right, and I guess my question was asking to make sure that since it is a City of Atlanta bill, it would be sponsored with someone from the City of Atlanta.
Yes, she's in that delegation.
Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none. Thank you, Ms. LaRosa.
Thank you, guys.
Next, we have a briefing from Shanette Kanida, Marketing and Sales End of the Year Wrap-Up, Senior Director, Marketing and Sales. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Scott, Vice Chair Ide, Mr. Greenwood, Mr. Parker, and other board members. My name is Shanette Kanida, and I'm the Senior Director of Marketing and Sales. Thank you for the opportunity to share an overview of MARTA's marketing and sales efforts this year. 2024 has been a dynamic year, filled with impactful campaigns, memorable events, and strategic partnerships that strengthen our brand and deepen community engagement. Today, I'll highlight some of the key initiatives that expanded MARTA's visibility and presence across Metro Atlanta. I'll walk you through the following: a review of key performance metrics, including event attendance, engagement rates, and reach; a highlight of our commemorative bus wrap program honoring the 60th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act; a recap of year one of the Atlanta United Partnership, detailing in-stadium branding, advertising, promotions, and engagement with Atlanta's soccer fans and employees. I'll highlight advertising and sales performance as we approach year end, share a sneak peek of our new Atlanta Airport ad campaign, and lastly, provide an update on the recent announcement of the MARTA merchandise store. Our overarching goals for 2024 were to plan and execute initiatives that boost community engagement, brand visibility, increase ridership, and drive revenue through impactful events, partnerships, and targeted outreach. This year, we hosted 46 events and activations with an impressive average attendance of 326 people, demonstrating strong community engagement and interest in MARTA's initiatives. We launched several new activations this year to celebrate diversity and inclusion, such as the Hispanic Heritage Month Customer Appreciation event at Chamblee Station. We partnered with Atlanta Pride Festival and hosted an Earth Day celebration at Indian Creek Market Farm and many others, broadening our reach and community impact. To keep our community informed and engaged, we introduced a monthly e-newsletter highlighting MARTA events, partnerships, and project updates. Our email campaigns are performing well. We have engaged an having an engaged email list of 107,000. We're achieving a 30% open rate, which is both right at industry standard, reflecting consistent interest from our audience. Now, at the top of the year, before kicking off Black History Month, we proudly announced a year-long celebration with specially designed buses honoring Atlanta's civil rights icons, all of which have a tie to transit history. In partnership with the King Center, we unveiled a special bus wrap honoring Dr. Martin Luther King and Coretta Scott King. This bus will continue in revenue service through the end of December, and the new bus will be unveiled at the 2025 King Holiday Kickoff Reception. In March, during Women's History Month, we had the privilege of honoring civil rights icon Juanita Jones Abernathy. Ms. Abernathy, who served on MARTA's board of directors for over 16 years, was a passionate advocate for transit equity and played a pivotal role in shaping MARTA's goals, particularly around customer experience. To celebrate her legacy, nearly 75 of her friends and family gathered across the street at Uptown for the unveiling of her beautifully wrapped bus, a lasting tribute to her impact. We honored Congressman John Lewis, who fought to desegregate the interstate bus system and advocate for MARTA because he understood the important role public transportation plays in providing opportunity for all. Congressman Lewis's bus wrap was revealed in mid-September, timed to the National Voter Registration Day, in honor of the late Congressman's contributions to modernizing and upholding protections of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Then we honored civil rights activists, Reverend Dr. Joseph E. Lowry and Evelyn Gibson Lowry. Dr. Lowry also served on the MARTA Board of Directors for 24 years, 4 years as chairman. We unveiled the Lowry's bus at a birthday and fundraising event hosted by his family. So to close out the year-long celebration, last Friday, we honored Ambassador Young with a special bus wrap, unveiling, and reception celebrating his immense contributions to civil rights, the city, and MARTA. The event brought together all of Atlanta's living mayors who stood proudly alongside Ambassador Young, emphasizing Atlanta's commitment to equality and progress. Now, on the same day, we had all 5 civil rights buses on display, symbolizing the deep connection between transit and the fight for equality. This bus wrap program underscored MARTA's ongoing dedication to honoring civil rights icons and using public transit as a platform to celebrate those who paved the way for future generations. Switching gears, in the spring, we launched a 3-year partnership with Atlanta United to boost visibility and provide ridership through exclusive match ticket and Breeze card offers, in-stadium branding, and targeted digital campaigns. The partnership was developed to deepen community engagement, again, and brand reputation through events, co-branded merchandise, and employee season pass perks while enhancing the fan experience with easy MARTA access. Our ticket pack promo, which included a shirt and Breeze card, sold a record 212 packs, and all MARTA employees received a t-shirt as well. Our in-stadium graphics reached approximately 443,000 attendees across 10 regular season home games, maximizing brand visibility and an average of 44,000 fans per game. Our graphics generated 1.2 million impressions on internet TV at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, significantly boosting brand exposure. MARTA's presence across Atlanta United's radio, social media, and website platforms generated 30,000 views, 465,000 listeners, and 152,000 website impressions, leading to greater visibility and an increased engagement. Now, our co-branded retail collection with Atlanta United was a hit. Atlanta United's inventory sold out in under a day, and MARTA's own first pop-up in October generated over $2,000 in sales, with 3 more pop-ups planned for this year. At our holiday market today at West End, we will be selling Atlanta United merchandise, and that's from 3 to 6 p.m. On December 12th, we'll have a customer appreciation event at HE Homes from 3 to 6 p.m. And on December 19th, we'll have an employee-only holiday bazaar at MARTA headquarters from 10 to 3, and we'll also be selling the Atlanta merchandise. As part of our partnership, we receive 8 season passes each season, providing future opportunities for additional employees and ERGs to participate. This season, we gifted 74 Atlanta United tickets to employees nominated by senior leadership. In collaboration with Beam and Pride ERGs, Beam members enjoyed tickets and the fan circle experience around Juneteenth, while Pride ERG members received tickets in June to support a Pride and allyship activation. Get ready for an exciting new retail collection coming in summer 2025. The collection has just been approved, and we're confident Atlanta United's fans, our customers, and employees alike will love it. While I can't reveal much, I can say it is designed with the season in mind, perfectly suited for summer. Stay tuned for more details. I want to transition to provide an update on our advertising and sales program. In FY24, our advertising revenue came in as expected, just under $6 million, and our sales program revenue saw some growth from FY23 and came in at $9.1 million. Here are a few highlights from the year for our advertising and sales programs. New ad restrictions led to a drop in revenue, prompting a contract modification with Intersection. An RFP for a new transit shelter and maintenance program vendor is now in progress. In addition to our ongoing shorter-term sales, we're exploring some home of station sponsorships, which will lead to long-term revenue increases. It's a major focus of Intersection's sales strategy and efforts for most transit agencies, and we think this can be very effective for MARTA. For example, to commemorate LeBron James's first home game as a LA Laker, Nike transformed LA Metro's Pico station into LeBron James station for the day with the station sponsorship. Also, Audible executed a home of sponsorship in New Jersey Transit's Broad Street station, right near the company's headquarters. Home of sponsorships allow companies to invest in the transit stop that serves their headquarters and take full ownership of it for the best brand buzz. Revenue potential for this type of sponsorship could net between $1.5 million and $2.5 million over 3 years. We're also collaborating with Intersection on World Cup advertising packages with the expectation of seeing strong revenue growth for 2026 based on World Cup demand. This month, we're launching a ridership campaign in Atlanta Airport's Welcome Arrivals area to strengthen our presence and target travelers with Ride MARTA and Skip traffic messaging, guiding them to the station. This effort is part of our broader strategy to increase visibility at the airport, especially as we prepare for the influx of travelers coming to major sporting events over the next few years. It's just an example of digital at the airport. So exciting news, on November 1st, we launched itsmartamerch.com, and this is our online store offering accessories, home decor, and clothing for all ages. In just 2 weeks, sales hit $22,000 with 281 orders averaging $80 each. Top sellers include the Map Mug, Rail Lines t-shirt, tote bag, bucket hat, and beanies. The store is really more than a revenue stream. It's a new way to engage with our community to drive sales and brand visibility. We'll promote through social media campaigns, seasonal deals, MARTA's platform ads, and local influencers. With these strategies, we will keep momentum growing. So our 2025 focus is on impactful, high ROI customer initiatives and activations. strategic preparation for major events like the World Cup and Super Bowl, and strong marketing support for key capital program projects. We aim to drive revenue growth through enhanced advertising and sales partnerships. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a great presentation, and I love the merch. I have a totally random question. On slide 12, what are those cute little gray vehicles?
Oh, that's the minibus. Let me go back. It is the golf cart. Yeah.
And are they just around the stadium?
No, we transport it. So wherever if we have an activation, we'll, we can
I've
have
never
it
seen
wrapped.
it before. It's super cute.
Yeah.
Okay, I love it.
You can request it.
Mr. Tagabe.
Important question on all of this. Can we attribute the recent uptick in Atlanta United performance to the partnership that we have?
I would like to take credit for that.
I went to that game in March, and I'm pretty sure that's why they beat Miami in Atlanta.
Let's hope it keeps going, right?
I would like a cup.
No problem.
Are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, thank you for a great presentation.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll have a briefing on our media impressions from July through October of 2024 by Ms. Stephanie Fisher, Senior Director of Communications. Good afternoon, Ms. Fisher.
Well, good afternoon, Chair Scott, Vice Chair Ide, Mr. Greenwood, Mr. Parker, and members of the External Relations Committee, and our huge crowd, as Jennifer pointed out. I am Stephanie Fisher. I'm the Senior Director of Communications, and it's my pleasure to come before you to present an overview of our media impressions from July through October of this year. In July, we released 14 press releases, including one that detailed our road race plan. Other newsworthy events of the month included the pausing of the 5 Points Transformation Project, a $25 million grant for the South DeKalb Transit Hub, and a public art installation at Chamblee Station. We received 830 impressions in July with an almost $3.5 million advertising value equivalent, or AVE. The news coverage was 80% positive or neutral in tone, with the pausing of the 5 Points project accounting for much of the 20% of the negative news coverage. Our social media engagement continues to grow, and in July, our most popular post was on Twitter. It was a take on President Biden's cryptic tweet that read, "I'm sick." Well, we followed up with, "Of Atlanta traffic, take MARTA." We received over 500,000 impressions on social media in July, which is where someone views our post, over 35,000 engagements, which is a like or a comment, and almost 12,000 clicks on links for more information or to read one of our press releases. The neighborhood-focused platform Nextdoor is a real valuable resource for us when communicating with customers, and our engagement there is really taking off, as you can see, with over 560,000 views. Facebook and Instagram stories remain very popular as well, and that's a great place for us to share video content. The sentiment or tone of our social media posts and our interactions in July were mostly positive and neutral at 72%. In August, we received over 1,300 impressions, worth almost $2 million in advertising value. We issued 15 press releases, and most of the news in August, about 93% of it, was positive or neutral in tone. The big story of the month was an update on the reefing project. Some new photos and videos showed how our decommissioned rail cars deployed into the ocean last year have started to develop into reef habitats. We also received positive coverage on the completion of 1,000 bus stop amenities system-wide. The planned rehab work at Brookhaven Station, which as you probably know wrapped up last week, made headlines in August, as did the MARTA Atlanta audit. The reefing project update was a big hit in August on social media, contributing to the over 1 million impressions and 88,000 engagements. Videos of the rail cars were clicked on and viewed tens of thousands of times in posts and on our stories on Facebook and Instagram. Nextdoor had another great month of engagement with the announcement of the service adjustments that were coming for the Brookhaven rehab work. The tone of our social media engagements in August was almost 70% positive or neutral in tone. We pushed out a lot of news and a lot of good news in September, issuing 25 press releases and receiving over 900 impressions. The unveiling of the John Lewis bus generated a lot of great stories and was a big reason that most of our coverage was positive or neutral. In September, the Atlanta Business Chronicle did a great article on the upcoming bus network redesign, and most news outlets covered our voter registration efforts and the launch of our co-branded merchandise with Atlanta United that Shinette just talked about, resulting in about $2 million in advertising value. That partnership between us and Atlanta United was our most popular post on social media in September, and I'm sure did contribute to the site selling out of those items quickly. Our post received over 600,000 views and over 40,000 likes or comments. Post views on Nextdoor increased in September, and the 50,000 views of our Facebook and Instagram stories were due to engagement around the John Lewis bus, people coming and going from Dragon Con, and some shared content by our riders. We love it when customers encourage others to take MARTA on social media, and so we always make it a point to reshare their posts or their stories. The tone of engagement on our social media posts in September was 74% positive or neutral, which is the highest of the quarter. Our big news in October was that MARTA was named the Outstanding Public Transportation System by APTA, and it did impact the tone of the news coverage for the month, 100% positive and neutral. We issued 18 press releases and received about 1,200 impressions, worth almost $1 million in advertising value. Other news we pushed out in October included the unveiling of the Joseph and Evelyn Lowry bus, the beginning of that rehab work at Brookhaven Station, and taking MARTA to early voting locations. The top social media post in October was the GM of Staple House taking MARTA to pick up that restaurant's Michelin star. He shared the photo with us, and then we let our followers know that that restaurant is just a quick walk from King Memorial and the streetcar route. Our post received almost 580,000 impressions and over 36,000 engagements. Links in our posts were clicked on 13,500 times, and Nextdoor views spiked in October with over 750,000 people engaging with us on that platform. Stories shared on Facebook and Instagram in October, including the MARTA Pride Bus and the Pride Parade, and how to take MARTA to early voting locations, resulted in 75,000 views. Now, the extreme delays in our Pride weekend service did result in more negative social media sentiment, with only about 65% of our online engagements in October registering as positive or neutral. Thank you for your time today, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions for Ms. Fisher? Hearing none, I have a quick question.
Yeah, I just say great job. I mean, we appreciate all you all do.
Thank you, Ms. Hardage. Are the RAP buses being driven throughout each jurisdiction? That's a question I had from commissioners in DeKalb.
Yes. Yes, I do believe they are system-wide. Yep. Lots of nods. Yeah, okay.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Hearing none, I just would like to say on behalf of the External Relations Committee, this being the month of veterans, that we recognize all of our veterans here at MARTA. Thank you, and we're adjourned.